My psycho mother-in-law has been consistently entering my house without my permission and watching me while I sleep because she claims she used her emergency key to get into my house so that she can watch me since I just had my kid. But now that I'm pushing back and telling her to get lost, not only is my husband saying that I'm out of line, but my mother-in-law and her family are saying that I'm rude for locking my bedroom door and preventing this woman from coming in there without my permission. And right now I'm still very pissed off about this and I just don't know what to do because this situation is crazy. Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old female and I've been married to my 31-year-old husband for about 3 years now. And currently we're expecting our first child. We're both excited but also stressed out. I've had a tough pregnancy and rest is really important to me. My mother-in-law lives about 20 minutes away and she has this bad habit of just dropping by unannounced. My husband has always just brushed it off, saying, well, that's just how she is. And with him claiming that she means well. And at first it was annoying, but it was manageable. But lately she's been crossing some serious boundaries. Last month she came over while I was napping and let herself in with the spare key we gave her for emergencies. And it was here that she literally came into our bedroom to check on me. I woke up to her standing by my bed watching me sleep. Well, needless to say, I told my husband it was creepy and I wanted the spare key back. But he said I was overreacting and that she was just being motherly. But then it happened again twice. One time I was in just a t-shirt and underwear and she actually sat down at the edge of the bed to talk to me. I told her firmly that I needed privacy and I needed rest. So to fix this issue, I changed the doorknob on our bedroom door to one with a lock on it. And the next time she dropped by and couldn't get into our room, she freaked out. Apparently she tried the handle, she knocked, and even called my husband at work, saying that she was worried something had happened. Later that night, she called me controlling and rude, saying that I was shutting her out of her grandchild's life already. My husband asked if I could just take the lock off of it to keep the peace, but I told him no. She doesn't respect boundaries and the lock is absolutely staying. Now his whole family is saying that I'm being dramatic and that my pregnancy hormones are making me paranoid. Now I honestly don't think I'm wrong, but I now feel isolated and ganged up on. So seriously, am I wrong for locking the bedroom door? Because right now I'm beyond pissed off and I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, I do not even know where to begin with this because this is some crazy behavior. First and foremost, your husband's a moron for not shutting this down sooner. I'm serious, dude. This absolutely falls on his shoulders and he is 100% to blame. If he put his foot down and said, hey, no, you can't walk in on us while we're sleeping, or at least like taking the emergency key back because she's clearly taking advantage of that privilege, like this all could have been solved right then and there. But instead, he's deciding, oh no, you're the problem for getting upset about this, not my mother walking in on you while you're sleeping or when you're half dressed. That's not the problem here. She's allowed to watch you while you sleep like some kind of creepy Santa Claus. Like, are you kidding me? This is not a situation where this is ever reasonable or okay in my opinion. And there's literally no excuse from the mother-in-law that would ever justify this behavior. This is creepy, it's weird, it's intrusive, and holy crap, are you not in the wrong? It really feels like everybody's trying to gaslight you too, by the way. With her trying to be like, wow, you locked the door that I was gonna walk into just to watch you sleep? How could you do this to me? I was worried that something had happened. But it's like, holy crap, the original poster is an adult. They're a fully grown functional adult and now mother. Like, what is she talking about? Something might have happened. The only person being paranoid here is like the entitled mother-in-law. Like, she's crazy, dude. So no, you are not the crazy one. Your husband sucks and he's a complete pushover, and your mother-in-law is out of her mind. Like, her behavior is completely unhinged and not okay in my opinion. And the fact that nobody sees this and everyone seems to think it's okay for her to watch you while you sleep, like that is completely unacceptable, and honestly, I don't blame you for locking your door because I would probably do the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I overreacting by being upset with my friend after she bought an express pass at Universal that I absolutely could not afford? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, so recently I went on vacation with my best friend to Universal, and it was fun and it was nice, but I'm still pretty upset and I just don't know if I'm overreacting. We come from two entirely different backgrounds and that's completely fine. I come from a low-income class family, while she comes from a higher middle-class family. I usually tease this just to have a good time, but we are very close. But sometimes that class difference can be very frustrating. For example, I was very frustrated planning out the trip and almost didn't go at first because the resort we were staying at was too cheap, and therefore she was afraid of the service, the quality, and getting bed bugs. Now this is not a motel on the highway. It's an actual resort that's partnered with Orlando that has a shuttle and everything. Plus it was $700 cheaper than the actual park resort, but she thought that was way too shady and still really cheap. I then explained to her that you can get bed bugs anywhere regardless regardless of how expensive a hotel is, but she still simply wouldn't budge. In fact, we almost didn't even go together, but she ended up paying the difference anyways. So we got to the park and it was fun, but the wait times of course are atrocious, with it being over 120 minutes. Now she's a very impatient person at times and doesn't like waiting in lines. As we started going into the parks, she told me she purchased the express pass for all 4 days, and that it's really not that much money. But here's the thing, I was gonna get 1 day, but it came out to be $280, and that was without the actual admission ticket, so obviously I didn't buy it. I was excited for the trip because I wanted to go on the rides for the first time with her, and I just wanted to see her reaction. I told her multiple times that this is what I wanted for at least 2 particular rides, but she said she just didn't want to wait in line for hours, and that she could just go on it with me again afterwards. So she just went anyways, and I just stood in line for the rides all by myself. Now I'm gonna be honest here because I was very hurt, and I was upset by this, and I told her so, but she just says that we don't have to do everything together, and that she could just go on the ride again with me. Some friends think that I'm making a big deal over nothing and acting like a child as she's a grown adult and can use her money how she likes, and I get that. But honestly, had I known that she would have just bought the express pass for the whole time and do this, I don't think I would have gone on the trip with her. It's not even about the money. Like, I didn't even want her to pay for me or anything like that. All I wanted was to go on 2 rides with her for the first time. And had this been the other way around, I would have waited no question asked. So seriously, am I overreacting? Because right now I'm still pretty upset. Okay, first of all, I want to say that yeah, I do think you're kind of overreacting here, but that doesn't excuse how crappy your friend's acting. First of all, the fact that she's trying to be like, no, I want to go to the more expensive place. Put me in the place that you can't afford, peasant. Like, she's literally trying to act like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get bed bugs at that other place. But you hit the nail on the head. You could absolutely get bed bugs pretty much anywhere, and not just the places you're deeming as shady. But for her to go about this and be like, okay, I'm not gonna wait in line. I'm gonna go for the express pass. See ya. You know, after you two planned this trip together, that in my opinion is really weird and just super toxic. You literally wanted to do this trip together. Why would she be getting something that you literally can't afford? Like, I don't know, that would rub me the wrong way as well, and it would kind of like ruin the trip altogether. But even with that in mind, I do think you're kind of blowing this out of proportion in a way that I just don't think is healthy. So hopefully this works out for you, because I think this is solvable, but it will probably just take some time to figure out because this is still incredibly fresh. My roommate ate my last slice of cheesecake that I was looking forward to all day, and now she's saying that I'm being overdramatic and I'm overreacting by how upset I am that she ate it. And at this point, I'm just not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, so last night I came home from a horrendous shift. My feet were dead, my brain was fried, and my soul was basically missing. But the entire time I was dreaming about the one thing that would get me through it, the last slice of my favorite cheesecake. I even labeled it twice in red Sharpie to make sure I got it. But when I opened the fridge, it was gone. It had vanished. Not even a crumb left over. Just the sad, cold imprint of where it once lived. I asked my roommate casually while also suppressing a primal scream, and she goes on to say, oh, I thought you wouldn't mind. You didn't seem that into it. And I just thought to myself, didn't seem that into it? What do you mean? So I calmly printed a missing cheesecake poster and I taped it to the fridge. I wrote a dramatic haiku about betrayal and may or may not have renamed our Wi-Fi to Cheesecake Thief Lives Here. And now she's saying that I'm being extra and dramatic. So let me just go ahead and ask, am I actually overreacting here, or am I just being silly like I'm pretty sure anyone can understand? Because right now I'm not sure if my roommate is actually upset. Okay, I gotta be honest, if you labeled it twice in red Sharpie and you literally put it to the side and they still ate it, I would also be very upset. Because trust me, I've been there as well. You have a crappy day at work and the one thing you're looking forward to is no longer there. And I think at that point, I would probably snap as well. Not to mention the fact that your roommate literally tried to be like, oh, I thought you wouldn't mind. You didn't seem that into it. But it's like, dude, hey, there's Sharpie written all over that thing. There's no way she couldn't have known that, yeah, this is yours and you don't want her eating that. So no, you didn't overreact, and in my opinion, I think your roommate definitely owes you a piece of cheesecake. My mom is literally draining the life and enthusiasm out of my body, as she is always causing problems for me anytime I say no to her petty requests. And now I'm desperately trying to save up so that I can move out and not live with her any longer. But in the meantime, I have to deal with all of her condescending remarks, as well as her put-downs that honestly are making me lose my mind. Because right now, I really do not know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of backstory, I was betrayed by my fiance beyond repair, and as a result, I had to move back home temporarily. I was absolutely absolutely dreading it because I did so during COVID as well, and living with my parents was completely exhausting. I love them to death and I want a good relationship with them, but living here has reestablished in their minds an inconsiderate power dynamic that to them, I'm still their young child they can boss around how they like. We live in a very high cost of living area, and I'm doing everything in my power to save up so I can afford my own place, but I'm beginning to doubt that can ever happen unless I find a random roommate or until I find a partner of some kind. I'm extremely grateful that my parents are letting me stay here and that they understand that our economy isn't like it was when we were younger, so I try to show my gratitude in any way possible. I pay about a third of the rent, I constantly offer to help out financially in other ways, I do the grocery shopping, I do the dishes, I cook if needed, I run errands when I'm capable of doing so, and above all, I stay out of their way and I keep all my belongings confided in my bedroom or storage. That being said, I find that even trying to meet them where I can, when I can, my parents can act extremely spoiled, particularly my mom, and they ask me favors that I don't find appropriate. My mom spends a majority of her day sitting on her phone, playing games or talking to friends, and watching television in her pajamas. She is physically able, and in fact, her doctors have encouraged her to be more active. And honestly, she really does spend her days doing a whole lot of nothing, and then complains about how hard her day was because she had to make a customer service call or something like that. And yet she constantly asks me to do very petty things for her that are things that she's perfectly capable of doing. For example, if I'm in the living room with her, then I permanently leave to go somewhere else in the house, and she knows I'm not headed back into the living room, and yet she rarely skips a beat to ask me to bring her dessert. Even if I explain that I'm not coming back beforehand, she still expects a yes out of me. Sometimes I'll be sitting there after a long day trying to decompress, and she'll still ask me, as if she's not equally as far from the fridge as I am. It's one thing if I get up and I ask the room if anyone would like anything, but I feel like she takes advantage of favors to compensate for her own laziness, or expects her family to serve her for some reason. Here's another example. I'll be working during the week, and she is fully aware that I am, but she'll still ask if I will go return a dress that she bought for her when she's got nothing going on, could definitely do it herself, and isn't otherwise preoccupied. For instance, when I'm out running the errand, she'd be watching TV instead. Sometimes she won't stop, and she just takes every opportunity to ask for a favor. She switches on this very sweet voice too, so I always know when it's coming, and it usually starts in a sentence that's like, "Oh, will you be a nice person and do this for me?" As if I'm a bad person if I don't do it. The problem is that whenever I get fed up and I start to set boundaries and say no, or even say like, "Oh, maybe later," or whenever she can read my body language that I'm slightly annoyed, she will instantly start yelling at me. Not just saying like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." We're talking like literal yelling, saying stuff like, "How dare you?" I get this immediate reaction like I'm the rudest, most selfish, most uncaring person in the world if I don't do it. And then she reminds me of all the favors she's done for me as justification for why I should do it without hesitation, which is completely unfair because she will do me favors I don't ask her to do. And in fact, I wish that she wouldn't, like my laundry, and then she'll weaponize them against me as though she's keeping some sort of favor scoreboard. Sometimes she'll be mad at me the entire day for this and intentionally avoid me to let me know in her eyes that I've messed up. And to boot, the reverse is absolutely a no-no. I know if I ever dreamed of asking either of my parents for lazy favors like that, they would immediately shut me down, and my mom would be appalled and laugh in my face in a patronizing tone that I'm a big girl and I'm capable of doing it myself. It would be entirely out of the question. But even still, they simply cannot see the hypocrisy. If someone needs me to run to the drugstore, help lift something, or something like that, I know the important ways to help, and I don't mind helping out, truly, but I want to do it within reason, and I definitely feel like I'm getting taken advantage of in this area. I think my mom has a very 1950s attitude that children serve their parents, because that's what she grew up with. She expects to be coddled, but I just can't dare ask for help without bothering her. My dad will still ask for a favor, but he also works very hard, and we have a more equal exchange of effort, if you will. Although sometimes it frustrates me that I'm the one to always do the doting. But honestly, I feel like even though I'm living here, I've done more than my fair share of helping out the last few years. Both of my parents have had multiple surgeries over the last few years, including during COVID, and I was the only one of my siblings to step in and care for them. And this is even after years of quarantine. But then I'm told that I wasn't doing enough, or that I wasn't doing enough or doing anything that much. They would say stuff like, "Well, your siblings are married and busy with their lives and you're not. What could you possibly have going on that's more important than taking care of your sick parents?" Meanwhile, I become so accustomed to my mom getting mad at me and asking for help that I now expect that reaction. And I've grown into an adult who never asks anyone for favors because I immediately expect that they will say no. Most people I've encountered would never dare help me out, through the good or the bad, which is a very difficult and isolating way to live. And I know something like grabbing your parent a sandwich sounds petty, but what hurts me very, very deeply is that my mom and I have always had a strained relationship. She's usually quite harsh and standoffish with me, and I feel like she often only talks to me if she wants something from me that she doesn't want to do herself, purely because she just doesn't feel like doing it. I rarely get I love yous from her, let alone any kind of thank you, so why would I want to go out of my way for someone who talks to me like that? I do often offer to do small favors like that, but the few times that I don't, those are the ones that get noticed and criticized. More than anything, I hate that I'm being treated like this all because I'm single and this economy doesn't support independence. I'm dying for my own space and it's not feasible right now, but I am a fully grown, mature, working adult, and I feel I deserve to be respected as one by my parents. But just because I'm not married, I'm not. Now, at the moment, I also work extensively long hours. We're talking sometimes up to 70 hours a week, and I'm doing this to try and save up as much as possible. So it's not like I'm sitting on my butt eating bonbons and then complaining about helping out. Most days I'm exhausted by the end of work. And honestly, sometimes my days as a single adult are very heavy, carrying the burden all alone while everyone else has a spouse to lean on. And you know what? It would be nice to have a selfless act of service from a family member every now and then, but I would never be able to rely on anyone to do so, especially if my own mother gets pissed off at me for asking. I'm so stressed and overwhelmed in my personal life right now. I feel like I've failed at every aspect of my life because I have to live at home, and I hate knowing that saying no to one simple favor can make me feel like the enemy in my own home and make me feel like I can't even do right by my family, despite the lengths I do go to try and win their favor. It really ruins my entire week, and sometimes I feel like I can't take being treated like a complete letdown one more time over such insignificant things. It's a game I simply cannot win. Despite all the good that I do, one mistake and that's it. At the same time, I'm resentful. I want to be putting this level of care and energy into a life and a home with a husband, and I want to be appreciated for the extreme effort I do contribute, rather than getting all the life sucked out of me by my ungrateful mother. I just feel like this is going to be the rest of my life, and I'm just completely stuck. And instead of getting to be married and raising a family of my own, I'm trapped as the spinster Cinderella who had to stick around and take care of her parents because I didn't find love, and apparently I should be grateful they let me live here in the first place, meaning that I have to do whatever they demand even if it's degrading. So am I the jerk for just not doing small favors like this? I feel so conflicted because I always feel like the jerk no matter what the situation is. Like, am I a bad person? Am I being selfish? Or is this something that entitled parents condition you to feel? Does the severe negative reaction match the crime? Is this normal treatment from parents? Like, am I overreacting in some way? Because I really just don't know what to do. Okay, I don't think you need me to answer this because I think you do know what's going on. But holy crap, your parents are terrible people. And yeah, I'm saying parents here, meaning that I'm including your dad because he's letting this crap happen. Your mom's also a terrible person, but that goes without saying. She guilt trips you into doing stuff that you literally don't want to do, and she throws a fit anytime you say no, which by the way is absolutely a form of manipulation. She's just doing that because she knows that she can get her way if she makes a big enough deal out of it. So in my opinion, I think you're making the right choice by being like, I'm gonna save up, I'm gonna work hard, and then I'm gonna move out and not look back. At least I hope that's what you're planning, because holy crap, your mom's literally trying to drain the life out of you. And guess what? You don't deserve that. You don't deserve to come home and feel like the villain in your own home. And by the way, it's not unreasonable to say, no, I'm not doing that. Like, you really can walk out of the living room and be like, sorry, I'm not helping you with that. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. And if that really is a deal breaker of you living with them, then holy crap, consider that a blessing in disguise. Because this, like what you just described, sounds like a nightmare. This doesn't sound fun at all. This really does sound incredibly miserable. And I think the sooner you get out of that environment, the happier you're gonna be. Because your mom sounds like a crappy human being, and I would never want to deal with that in my wildest nightmares. Am I the jerk for breaking up with my boyfriend after he took the side of a coworker who was literally bothering me and treating me like garbage at work? Because after he said I was being too sensitive and that I needed to lighten up, I literally broke up with him on the spot and didn't even look back. But now, after some reflection, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong, because right now I just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so recently I made a post about my coworker who couldn't stop making comments about the food that I bring to work. I like trying out different cultural meals my friends recommend, like chicken curry and all this other stuff that I just find interesting. This coworker also kept making digs about the smell, or that it was weird, or that I should just eat normal food. It got old really fast, and I finally told her to please stop. Well, all of this somehow came up when I was venting to my boyfriend, and instead of being supportive, he said I was making a mountain out of a molehill, and he said that I was overreacting. He even said my coworker was probably just joking and that I should just lighten up. I then told him flat out that it didn't feel like a joke to me. It felt more like a constant disrespect. But to this, he just brushed it off. off, he said to me, "You're always so sensitive." And that honestly hurt way more than what my coworker said. Now, we've only been dating for like 10 months, but you know what? I broke up with him on the spot. I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that the person who's supposed to have my back instead chose to side with someone who belittles me on a daily basis. And now I'm second guessing myself, and I'm wondering if I did the right thing, or if I overreacted by ending a relationship over this. So seriously, am I the jerk for walking away from a boyfriend who literally just didn't take me seriously when I finally stood up for myself? Because right now I'm kind of at a loss and I don't know what to do. Oh man, this is really toxic, I gotta be honest. The fact that he's even taking anyone's side but yours this early into a relationship is like really stupid. Like it almost comes across like he's trying to make an argument with you and be like, "Oh, you're wrong. You need to lighten up. You're so sensitive." And that for me is like the kiss of death. If my partner said that to me, I'd be like, "Oh, I don't want to be with you anymore. You really think I'm being too sensitive about someone making digs at me on a daily basis? Like, come on, dude, that's absolutely not what's happening here." And based on what the original poster has basically described, things with their coworker were way worse than they're letting on. Like they had to go to human resources and file reports and all this other stuff. And it's like, man, if I have to go that far just to get this to stop, then there's clearly a problem going on here. And no, it's not me. It's not because I'm being too sensitive. It's because the coworker is literally bothering me. So for your boyfriend to act like that and be like, "Oh wow, you're so sensitive," that in my opinion is super toxic and not someone I would ever want to be with. An entitled Karen crashed into my car with no insurance and demanded that I pay her $10,000 in cash just to cover her damages. And once I refused to do that, she called the cops and things escalated from there. Here's what happened. So first, some backstory. I own a Jeep and it's fully built, it's got a lift kit, it's got ADD bumpers, and it's pretty much decked out the way you would want it to be. So one day I'm coming home from work and it's a summer day, so the roof is off and I'm having some open top fun. I stop at a red light and then suddenly there's a bang and my car lurches forward. I drive forward slightly and go back to assess the damage, and lo and behold, it's a Mercedes C-Class, and it's a new one at that. It's completely destroyed from the front, and my beautiful Jeep had no damage, apart from maybe a few scratches. I then went back to go check on the passenger of the Mercedes. I got them out, and luckily she was unharmed. But this entitled Karen did not stay civil very long, because in literally under a minute, right after she's out of the car, she starts screaming about how I wrecked her car. I told her calmly that she was the one that rammed into me. After all, I was sitting at a stoplight, but I think she understood how my hitting her car would be impossible. I then offered to share our insurance details because I know that the damages to a Mercedes is not gonna come cheap. But then she said something that absolutely blew my mind. She said that she didn't have insurance. Instead, she demanded that I pay her $10,000 in cash just to cover the damages. And at this point, I'm just stunned at how wrong this is. Because for one, she hit me, not the other way around. And also, it's her fault for not having insurance, not mine. She then went on to ramble about how her kids needed the money, saying they had no money at the time, and now her kids will starve because she will have to pay to fix her car, and how it will be my fault when they are on the street tomorrow. And at this point, I didn't believe this lady in the slightest. This lady owns a Mercedes. I doubt that they're going to be on the street anytime soon. When she demanded the $10,000 in cash, I told her no. So she decided to escalate this to a place that I never thought would happen. She said that she would call the cops if I didn't pay her. And again, after she said this, I refused, as this is just completely dumb. And so she did just that. She called the cops. The cops came and assessed the damage and asked us what happened. And she said, and I quote, "This man backed into me at full speed on a red light." All I could do at that moment was just shake my head, because that couldn't be further from the truth. The cops then asked me what happened on my end, and so I told them. And it became clear that this was my word against hers. But much to this Karen's dismay, a local shopkeeper was there as well and saw the whole thing, and even captured it on a surveillance camera. Needless to say, I came out on top. The cops got her for reckless driving and driving without insurance. She then started yelling at the cops about how they would just let a criminal get away like that. They explained that I did nothing wrong and that they now had video evidence that she was in the wrong. The partner of the cop came to me and told me that if I can drive, I can leave. So I got in the Jeep and I left. And honestly, after that, I never want to have a Karen experience experience like that ever again. How crazy do you have to be to not only ram into someone at a red light, but then straight up lie to the police officer right to his face? That's probably the worst idea this lady had all day. And how on earth could someone really drive around without insurance on their car? That's actually crazy to me, especially a Mercedes. That is so expensive. Not to mention the fact that she tried to get $10,000 out of this guy's pocket just to pay for her damages. But in my opinion, if you can afford a Mercedes and not have insurance, then you can afford your stupid mistake of ramming into somebody and costing thousands of dollars in damage. In my opinion, she earned her reward, and maybe next time she'll learn to step on the brake once in a while. I just found out that my long-distance boyfriend is actually a catfish, and now I'm heartbroken and I don't know what to do. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I've been supposedly dating this guy for about 6 to 7 months. We met online through TikTok, and one thing led to another, and we developed a more intimate relationship. Everything only through text messaging though. We talked about deep personal stuff, our worries, our jobs, stuff like that. We both even had losses in our families and consoled each other about it. I was caught in a pretty vulnerable time in my life, so I guess that helped the situation. I asked multiple times to call or video call, but he said he was shy. He said he would just do it later, and I just kind of brushed it off, since I'm naturally kind of an understanding person, or gullible as it looks like. And we had already exchanged photos all the time. As a side note, he had already seen me through video on TikTok, as well as videos that I sent him. We even discussed traveling to each other's cities, but couldn't make it happen because of our jobs. Long story short, tonight, out of the blue, unprompted, I decided to do a reverse Google search on one of his selfies. Who knows what guardian angel was smacking my head? Lo and behold, his face is all over Google. Not only that, all of his life, his family, pets, house, everything. He straight up impersonated this really big YouTuber. I'm not gonna say their name, but they have about 500,000 subscribers, and at the time, I had no idea who this person was. So he had massive amounts of content to find photos, all according to the situations we were talking about. I am still shocked of how well he played that game. Here's the issue. Throughout this relationship, I sent him some pictures of me that are a little bit more intimate in nature. Nothing too much, but too much for me. Stuff I wouldn't be too happy with, especially if it was plastered all over the internet. As I said, I am active on TikTok and YouTube, and I have a Discord channel, and he is in all of those. At this point, I'm really not sure how to handle this and what his reaction will be. Frankly, I'm mostly just still in shock. I'm mostly thinking of just silently breaking up with him and hoping he'll move on and leave me alone. I'm omitting details partly because I'm worried he might be in here, and partly because I am crying and trembling as I type. Yes, I'm an idiot, but no harsh judgment, please. I'm already shocked and devastated as it is. What should I do? This is absolutely horrific. I feel so bad for this person. It's bad enough to get catfished, but it's another thing to find out that they have pictures of you that you would not want on the internet. That is honestly heartbreaking. And I think your plan of silently breaking up with him and then eventually distancing yourself from him completely is probably the safest bet. You could just straight up expose this person and drag them through the mud like I'm sure you want to, but he could try and use those pictures against you, which is an unfortunate fact about this situation. But regardless of what happens, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this. Online dating can be super sketchy, especially when you get catfish like this. So hopefully he handles it well, and hopefully he just leaves you alone and moves on. I have a crush on my coworker, but she's a lot younger than me, so I don't know if I should ask her out or if I should just let this go. A little bit of background for myself. I'm a 37-year-old male, and I'm not exactly in great shape, as I'm fairly overweight. I have arthritis in one of my knees, bad enough to where I have to walk with a cane, and I have some trouble hearing due to years of listening to loud music. Due to horrible self-esteem and much teasing back during my school days, I've never really gotten the confidence to be able to go on a date with anyone, and have never really had any sort of actual dating relationship. Unlike a lot of the posts I've seen where people are like, oh man, I'm so oblivious, people flirt with me, I just don't notice until it's too late. In contrast, I don't think I've ever really had anyone flirt with me. So as the title says, I have a crush on one of my coworkers. She's really smart, she's into a lot of the same hobbies I am. We seem to get along at work really well, and there's definitely a possibility we could have something going on. And if I wasn't such a chicken, I would ask her out. I can definitely make her laugh, even when we are both worn out from work. And while she's a vegetarian and I'm not, I don't think that's really that much of a deal breaker. We're something to start between us. However, this is probably the biggest reason I haven't tried anything, but this person is 19 years old. Not to say that she's not capable of making her own choices with regards to dating due to her age, but I mean my parents were at a similar age when they first got together, and that is also to say nothing nothing about modern celebrity relationships. At the same time, I don't want to mess up any sort of professional relationship that I might have with her. I mean, I am going after someone that's literally half my age. On the other hand, I don't know if I could find anyone that I would really click with in my area like I feel I do with her, especially not without having their own baggage of previous relationships. So it begs the question, should I ask her out? This is all at the risk of the professional relationship in exchange for a personal one. Or should I keep my mouth shut and let someone pass me by in the hopes that I might find someone a little closer in age, even if it might take me longer just to find them? What should I do? I think asking her out would be a very bad idea. Not just from the age difference, which is the biggest reason in my opinion, but my personal preference is to not go after coworkers unless I know for a fact that it's not going to ruin work. But the age difference is just way too big, and there's probably a really good chance, if I were willing to guess, that she's being nice to you because she's at work. And generally speaking, that's typically what's expected of someone when they go to work. And it really is going to drive a wedge in your professional relationship with just about everybody in the office if you try to pursue the 19-year-old for a relationship. From the outside looking in, I'm sure you mean well, but it definitely comes off a little weird. So I would say try and look into someone that's your age. With all of the options online, I'm sure you can find someone who's your age that will love you in the way that you've always looked for. Because otherwise, in my opinion, asking this teenager out on a date is only going to make things weird and incredibly awkward. Today, I messed up by accidentally throwing my phone away, and boy am I upset. I was having lunch yesterday at my table, and somehow the topic of my book bag came into the conversation. As I removed and flaunted about all the stuff I carried around school, I noticed there was some dirt in the bag, so of course I went to the trash can and did a little shake just to get the dirt out, all while carrying it upside down. While doing so, I heard a little thump in the trash can, so I did a quick glance, didn't think I saw anything unusual, and carried on my day. Now it's about an hour since lunch ended, and I'm walking home from school. I remember that I should probably remind my mom that I have work today, and instinctively, I went to retrieve my phone from my bag. To elaborate, my bag has a pouch that's almost like a pocket, of which I place my phone and other miscellaneous items in there. So when I'm trying to reach for it, I realize my phone isn't there. I check inside my bag, but there's no luck. Maybe it's stuck in between one of my folders. I check that, and again, it's not there. At this moment, I'm starting to panic and racing back to the school to look for my phone. During this, all the possible situations fly through my head. At first, I thought someone stole it, but when I thought about that, it didn't make much sense. Then I thought I might have left it on the cafeteria floor, and that was precisely the moment it hit me. The trash can, the upside down book bag, the thump. It was all connecting together and starting to make sense. Now I'm panicking even more. When I get back to the school, I explain my predicament, and of course, it seemed like no one would help me. Most likely, all the trash bags were already taken from the cafeteria and put out into the dumpster, where they cannot allow students to search due to it being a safety hazard. Later, when my mom came along with me to see if anything could be done, one of the vice principals explained that the custodians could try to look for it and I could check back tomorrow, but it honestly sounded like school lingo of them basically saying, yeah, you're never gonna get that phone back. Now my parents are mad at me for being the careless person that I am. I lost a way of communication between my parents and my friends. I lost all the things that I kept on there, including my work schedule. I cannot sign into my email because of Google's two-step verification that is mainly accessed on my phone. And now I'm a dejected mess who's really just trying to smile and make a joke out of all of it and not think too much about it. I think I would scream if I lost my phone by accident. That is a really terrible situation to be stuck in. And you're right, there's no way those cafeteria workers are gonna jump in that dumpster just to look for your phone. So I think it's safe to say that it is definitely gone forever. But even with that in mind, I don't think it would be that hard to try and track it down, right? Like all you would have to do is find all the trash bags from that day alone and then just start feeling through it. Like it wouldn't be that hard to let a student go up there with supervision and start feeling around the bags to see if they can find their phone. Like that's totally possible. I don't see anything wrong with that personally. If I was in your shoes, I probably would have just jumped in that dumpster anyways without them knowing and look for my phone, or at least figure out which dumpsters they threw all the trash in, waited until they were not around, and then looked anyways. The worst that could happen is you get in trouble and they tell you to leave. But in my opinion, it's worth the risk just so I can get my phone. But hopefully the cost for a new phone isn't that much. And hopefully next time you hold on to it and you don't accidentally throw it away. My classmate is trying to ruin my reputation at school, and I'm worried that she's starting to succeed, and I don't know what to do. So I attend a graduate program with someone by the name of Abby. That's not her real name. The environment at school is generally very competitive and rather toxic because everyone wants post-graduation jobs, and there isn't enough to go around to all the students students. This means we're all competing for the top grades, internships, and extracurriculars. My dad, who is in the same profession as me, says that everyone kind of chills out eventually once we graduate, but that's definitely not the case right now. My personality is introverted and reserved, and my style is basically to keep my head down and work hard. It's paid off because I'm one of the top students in our grade, and I also landed the most desired internship. Most people, except very close friends, don't know this because I dislike talking or bragging about myself, but Abby somehow found out. A group of us went out to eat, and at one point she and I were alone, and she made sure to tell me that I didn't deserve my internship, stating that it was a fluke, and that I must have bribed a good friend who works for the program department to get me in. As a side note, I would never do that. This friend is like one out of like 200 workers. They are low on the totem pole and have no sway whatsoever in picking interns. I'm really non-confrontational, so I just smiled uncomfortably. I said I didn't think that was the case, and I kept trying to change the subject, but she wouldn't let it go. She doubled, tripled, then quadrupled down, and kept repeating that it was a fluke over and over again. Frankly, it was quite bizarre. Anyway, since then, it's been her personal vendetta to try and bring me down. She's been whispering in people's ear that I got the internship through connections. She also spread the rumor that I'm lazy, telling people that I'm incompetent, clumsy, and that I'm always turning in assignments late. The last one is kind of a head scratcher because I tend to turn in assignments early just in case. On the surface, it seems rather harmless, but it's scary to me that people are actually starting to believe her. A mutual friend teased me the other day about always turning in assignments at the last minute, and when I told her that I actually turned them in early, she was just like, "Oh, sure you do." Abby is really social. She knows a lot of people and is close with the professors, and is the big sister figure everyone relies on. It's starting to really scare me just how much she's been changing other people's perception of me. This profession is small, and having a reputation for being lazy and incompetent will definitely be detrimental to me. It's easy to say that the people who really know me will also know that the things she's saying are just absolute garbage. And while that's true, it just goes back to the competitive and toxic environment thing. There are a lot of people, even so-called friends, who want to believe these things. They want to think that everything I've achieved is indeed a fluke, instead of being earned by merit or hard work. I'm really scared over all this, and I feel really helpless. What am I supposed to do? This is a really terrible situation because this is so uncalled for. It's obvious that Abby is very intimidated by the thing that you have. You got the most desired internship in your program, and she's trying everything she can to try and tear you down and ruin your reputation. And in my opinion, there's a few ways you can go about doing this. First and foremost, I would immediately go to the department head and report this lady for spreading lies about you. I don't care who they are or what kind of influence they have. Nothing is more influential than the department head. They will absolutely take care of this, and this should really be escalated. In the meantime, I would document everything that she's saying with date and timestamps so you can have a running record of everything that this lady's saying to you, because this is completely unacceptable. You might even be able to get a letter of confirmation from one of the department heads that chose you for this internship and allow them to put in writing that you got this internship because you performed better than any other candidate, and that is not because you happen to know somebody or that you paid somebody off, because that's so unethical it's not even funny. I think you have every right to be upset about this, and you have every right to step up and defend your good name, because to sit there and allow someone to defame your hard work and your good name would be so disrespectful to the woman who worked so hard just to get where she's at. So report her tomorrow and let the department head take care of this, because if someone wants to defame your good name, then they deserve the consequences that will come along with it. My friend and landlord wants my baby, and at this point, I'm not sure what to do about this. So I'm a 37-year-old female, and I'm about 6.5 months pregnant. It's a long story, but about 4 months ago, I found myself homeless and desperate. Jessica, who's in her 50s, owns a house and had been renting the top floor, 3 small rooms and a small bedroom, as an Airbnb, where she made about $1,000 during a good month. She also gets disability for back pain and depression. We've known each other for about 5 years, and we are decent enough friends, and even played in a band together years ago. When she heard about my situation, she told me that she's been wanting to close the Airbnb for a while because she hates cleaning it all the time, and that she always wanted to rent to a family with a baby, and that she would also love to be my babysitter when I went back to work. It sounded like a godsend, but I told her I could only afford about $685 a month. She said she will make it work because she is really excited to have a baby around, and she even let me crash on her couch for free for 2 months. As the last guest trickled in upstairs. She has since picked up a 10-hour-a-week job cooking for a friend to supplement the lost income. Slowly over the last few months though, she has said things that make me feel very uncomfortable. One of her friends said something about us raising a child together, and that rubbed me the wrong way, but I just wrote it off as them joking around. Then another time, she said that when she's talking to her dog, she refers to herself as mommy, and that my kid might get confused. So it would be best if the baby learned to call her mommy and called me mama. With the most disgusted look on my face, I said that my child will understand that she is her dog's mommy and that she can be Auntie Jessica. And after she said these things, I started to push her away. Another thing she said was that sometimes when I laugh, I remind her of an ex-girlfriend. And after she said this, I was very uncomfortable. I believe I've made it clear in the past that I do not date women, but I'm worried she might have some weird crush on me despite her having a boyfriend. She is not in the least bit attractive to me, neither physically or personality-wise. As a side note, I've also come to realize that I do not feel comfortable letting her babysit 40 hours a week. She is on a lot of meds, sleeps through her dog barking loudly, and is generally just very myopic and scatterbrained. A few times, her prescriptions were late, and she was bedridden for days, experiencing really bad withdrawals. I can't imagine leaving my baby with her and going to work. I also haven't told her that I'm seeking alternative childcare yet. The other day, it got back to me that she's still telling people that she is my co-parent, and I'm at my wit's end. I have found myself snapping at her over several different things over the last few days as I try to find an opportunity for a conversation about this. But I also feel guilty. She has closed her business, is renting to me at a huge discount, and is willing to help me with my baby for free. She's also helping to host my baby shower, which is tomorrow. Anyone in my situation could consider this living in luxury, but I just feel this huge resentment and disgust towards her. How should I have this long overdue conversation with her? I need help forming how I can kindly, despite my internal rage, put a stop to her delusions. I don't know where to start. Admittedly, I worry about my rent going up or losing my housing if I upset her, but I also feel like this is all somehow my fault for in essence accepting her charity. What should I do? In my opinion, you need to find someplace else to live. This is not safe for you or your future child. The manipulation that is coming from your supposed friend right now and the creepy thing she's saying is just really bad. She knows you're desperate and she knows that you need a house, so she is holding the housing that she's giving you over your head to try and manipulate you into letting her do whatever she wants. You are being manipulated so hard and you might not even realize it. This lady's also trying to pretend like this baby that you're about to have is also hers. That's like some creepy stuff right there. So in my opinion, if you really want to keep yourself safe as well as your future kids safe, get out while you can. Because this lady sounds absolutely crazy, and you would be a lot better off living literally anywhere else. My entitled mother, who has controlled every aspect of my life leading up to college, is making me choose between her or my future husband, and I honestly don't know what to do. Growing up, my mom had told me she was raising me to be the best child because she knew I would achieve more. My mom was way harsher on my grades, my sports activities, any clubs I was a part of, my looks, and my personal life. And this was way more than my little brother. And I have to admit, I grew up hating my little brother for all the freedom that he had. In contrast, I was always isolated. I was always grounded. I was working multiple jobs to not only save up for college, but to help with family bills. When my brother got a job, he was able to spend the money on what he wanted. In contrast, my mom told me what my career goals were. She told me what person I should marry and how she will move in with me after I buy my house to raise my children and then to take care of her. My mom was the type to blow money on designer stuff while we slept in hotels and cars at one point. I hated being poor. All I wanted was a house growing up, a nice house that was for all of us, even if it was small. If I dated someone my mom didn't approve of, she would do everything to sabotage the relationship because according to her, they were simply not good enough for me. Well, when I went to law school, and it was while I was getting my Juris degree that I met my now current boyfriend. And when I started dating him, I just knew that he was someone that I wanted to be with. We moved in together after 3 days, and we have not been away from each other ever since. I love his family, and they also love me. He was raised upper middle class and had an amazing set of parents. He was also top of the law school and just felt too perfect for me. But as you could probably guess, my mom disagreed. She didn't like him one bit because anytime she said something to make herself look smart, he would call her out and would say, "Nope, you're wrong." And if there's anything I know about my mother, it's that she hates being proven wrong. I told my boyfriend how my mother raised me and what she expects from me growing up. Well, he wasn't going to have it. He said she would be even lucky to know her grandchildren. My mom started to see her plans unraveling with my new boyfriend and tried to break us up multiple times. When she started making fun of his parents, he drew the line. He called her out and said that we're done with her. The panic was real for my mom at this moment. I was her ticket meal. She then demanded that I make a choice between my own mother or a man I was only dating for a year. And you know what? I chose my boyfriend. We have been together for almost 3 years now. I dropped from law school and work remotely at an amazing job. He graduated top of his class and was hired by a firm immediately. Our income is way above what I expected, and sometimes I cry at night for how blessed I feel. Growing up, I always begged to have a home that I could call my own. Now we may have a home together in a few years. She will send threats and make up excuses to try and contact me, just so she can try and insert herself back into my life. We plan to get married soon, and know we have to keep it really quiet, because she will call just to try and threaten us, or she might try and show up, which we most definitely don't want. The fact that your mother would try and make you some kind of cash cow that she could cash in on later in life is just beyond appalling. It's legitimately disgusting to treat your kids like that. This lady had no drive in her life. She clearly did nothing to try and secure any kind of future for herself or for her kids. So instead, she tries to work you like a horse just to try and leech off of your hard work, which is completely unfair. This man stepping into your life was probably the best thing that could have happened, because he literally gave you a ticket away from your mother, who for all intents and purposes is just a leech. That's all she is. So hopefully your new life with your boyfriend goes well, and hopefully you've taken the steps to block her on everything. Social media, phone calls, everything. Because this lady is toxic, and she will do everything she can to try and ruin your future marriage. My online best friend, who I have a crush on and have been flirting with like crazy, has stopped talking to me after we met up, and I honestly don't know what to do. I have been friends with this girl for over a year. She lives in a different country, so we have always talked over Discord. I developed a big crush on her after a while. She would flirt with me a lot, but I always just took it as her playing around, but I would still get overly excited about it. We planned to meet up at another friend's house with a group of friends. A couple days before we met up, she told me that someone told her that I have a crush on someone, and because of that, she told me to ask them out. So that's when I confessed to her that it was her that I liked. But we live thousands of miles apart, so it's a little complicated. She told me that back when we had recently met, she liked me too, but I was in a relationship at the time, so she backed off. Truth be told, I was never really enthused about having such a long-distance relationship, but I wanted to enjoy the time I spent with her. She really ramped up the flirting with me as well. She asked me to share her bed on the trip and asked me if I wanted to go out with her there. I told her I would love to, and told her how excited I was to see her as well as just to hug her. She told me that she was a little afraid that she would be disappointing to me in person, but I assured her that I don't think that would happen. When we met, things were great at first. I would hug her and cuddle her and tell her that she was really pretty and really cute, and she would say the same to me. After a few days, I noticed that she distanced herself a little more. She wouldn't sit next to me or cuddle me anymore, preferring to sit next to her other friend and lean on him instead. There was one awkward moment when we had a little bit too much of the herb, if you know what I mean, and she retreated into our room. We were planning to play video games that night, so I went back to our room to find her, and I saw her cuddling with another friend while he was rubbing her back. I was like, okay, I guess we're not playing video games then, whatever. And after that, I just left. I felt super uncomfortable. When I went to bed, she told me not to take anything she did too seriously, as at the time she had a little bit too much of the herb, and she was out of her mind, as she put it. I told her it was okay, and I just felt a little awkward from interrupting her with her friend, and so I just went back to sleep. The next day, she told me that she had actually wanted to tell her friend to stop rubbing her back as it was triggering bad memories, but she was too out of it to properly articulate that. I told her it was fine and apologized for acting weird. Things seemed to be fine after that. She was still not acting romantic towards me, but she didn't avoid me, and we had a ton of laughs and a lot of fun together. One night after we watched a movie, I spilled my feelings to her. I told her that she wasn't disappointing me, not in the slightest. In fact, she made me insanely happy to be around her. I told her that if anything, my feelings have gotten stronger. I told her that I was trying to be obvious about it, but trying to not come off way too strong or to creep her out in any way. She told me that she was happy with me too, but that she's just incredibly awkward overall in person. I told her I would love to spend more one-on-one time with her, and she told me I could come visit her in her country sometime. After that, I felt relieved to open up to her, as well as getting my feelings off my my chest. For the rest of our time together, she acted a bit hot and cold with me. One day she would be sweet and charming with me, buying us matching necklaces and cute things like that, and the next day she would be distancing herself again. She never completely avoided me, and I did my best to make her laugh and smile. When it was finally time to leave, I was pretty bummed out to have to say goodbye to everyone, and I told her that. She hugged me before I left for the airport and told me we could play Fortnite with the group tomorrow. I agreed and I went home. The next day, I went to work and told my coworkers about everything that happened. They told me I should give her some space and let her reach out to me, and invited me out for food and drinks after work. So I texted in the group chat that I would be going out tonight and not coming on for Fortnite. I waited for her to message me, but she didn't say anything to me directly, only posting in the group chat sometimes. She then announced that she was leaving the server we ran together for an undetermined amount of time, and yet still, she didn't have anything to say to me. After a week of not talking, I logged on to Fortnite to see the update. I saw she was online, and so I messaged her saying, "Hey, you on for some Fortnite?" She then suddenly logged off and didn't respond, so I thought she just went to bed. Later that night, I did see her active on Facebook, so I just thought she wasn't on Discord. The next day, which is today, she still hadn't messaged me back, so I asked if she was mad at me, and she still didn't reply. So I told her to please tell me if there's something I did wrong. She always told me about everything before, so it was really hurtful and confusing to me that she was just ignoring me now all of a sudden. I thought we parted on a good note. She still hasn't responded, but has been posting on Facebook, and right now I'm at a complete loss for what to do. Did I make her not want to talk to me anymore or something? I get the picture that she doesn't have the feelings for me that I have for her, but I don't see why she couldn't just tell me that she wanted to just be friends. The only thing I can think of is that she could be mad at me for not playing Fortnite with her like I said, and for not messaging her directly for a week. Still, she didn't message me either, so I don't understand what right she has to be mad at me for it. I'm just really heartbroken and afraid she doesn't want to be friends anymore. I always thought we really cared about each other, so I'm absolutely blindsided that she would be the kind of person to just drop me out of the blue. Does anyone have any advice on what to do, or has maybe gone through something similar like this? This is honestly tearing me up inside, and I don't know what to do. I think the writing's on the wall. I don't think this girl likes you the way that you like her, and she's too afraid to confront you and say it. She clearly does not like confrontation, and she's intentionally avoiding you to try and get out of this situation, which in my opinion is very, very rude and very telling of her personality. At this point, you gotta really accept what her answer is, and her answer is silence. You've tried reaching out, you've tried to see if there's something that you did wrong that would probably cause any kind of problems in this relationship, but she refuses to talk to you, despite clearly being online, as well as clearly posting on Facebook. So let that be your answer. I know it's not a good answer because you did meet this person in real life, and you thought that she liked you the way that you like her, but clearly that's just not the case. So if anything, I would give her distance and let her come to you if she really is interested, because sending a bunch of messages is not going to do you any good. If anything, it's only going to drive her away even more. So hopefully you're able to find answers. But I think if anything, it's time to accept that you might not get any answers and just move on and find someone who really will care about you. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not attending my girlfriend's uncle's funeral? So me and my girlfriend are on the edge of being a thing of the past. We have been together for 6 months and we've had our ups and downs, but there were much more good days than there were bad. For some backstory, I live in a very southern conservative state, and I am also black ethnically. Me and my girlfriend went to school together, and that's how we met. We quickly fell in love with each other, and our relationship progressed really fast as we were talking about getting an apartment together. However, at the start of our relationship, my girlfriend told me something just a little unsettling. Long story short, her family is racist. There's no other way to put it. She said she didn't care and that she wouldn't let it interfere with our relationship, so I went with it. So my girlfriend tells her parents everything, which is no problem. My girlfriend isn't the most mentally healthy, as she does struggle with depression and anxiety, and I believe I am not as well, but I am not diagnosed like her. I have an issue with showing emotion due to past experiences, but I make sure my girlfriend knows that I love her and would do close to anything for her. But there was one thing I couldn't say yes to. It has caused our relationship to crumble, and I also feel her parents told her things about me that I believe are totally unfair to hold against me given the circumstances. With my girlfriend's family being the way that they are, I am not allowed to come over to their house, but she comes to mine. This is just as a reference of how our relationship works around her family. A lot of times her family will call her out of nowhere and make her come home without explanation, despite her being a grown adult and paying them rent. This only occurs when she is with me too, by the way. Fast forward to last month, and her notorious Victoria's uncle passed away. It has caused a great rift in our relationship. My girlfriend asked me if I would be coming to his funeral, and I declined because of the way her family is, and I thought she understood as she claimed that she did. I promised to be as supportive as possible from a distance, and we agreed on that. A week goes by and the funeral came and went. During the time, I couldn't see her for obvious reasons, but we FaceTimed the whole week. Now, my girlfriend has been distant, and when I asked her why, she said she thinks I don't love her and that I don't treat her right because of my absence at the funeral that we both knew I wouldn't be at. We have never questioned love for one another until this point. The sudden change of heart makes me think her family pushed her into believing this. We have argued about it the past couple of weeks, but yesterday I was at my wit's end. My girlfriend continued to use it against me, and I finally said, "What on earth made you think it was a good idea to bring your black boyfriend to a man's funeral who was very much against people like me?" And I know I could have said this better, but I said it out of anger and I really don't have an excuse. I just think it's a strange thing to hold against somebody, especially when they've never been in my shoes in this way. Now my girlfriend says I went too far and doesn't know if she wants to continue during our arguments. I do regret how I said things, but to be fair, this is exactly how she described them to me, so I believe I had every right to say what she was saying. I don't want to lose her over this, but she is really torn on keeping me around. So it begs the question, am I the jerk for not attending her uncle's funeral? You are not the jerk in this situation. Her immediate family, as well as her extended family, harbor crazy prejudices, and I would not blame you for not wanting to be around that. That's literally the last place I would want to be if I was in your shoes, and I can't imagine being in that kind of situation. The fact that she's not more understanding of that and doesn't make more of an obvious effort to distance herself from that type of language and thought is astonishing to me. I mean, I'm surprised that this relationship has lasted even this long, to be completely honest with you. I can completely understand that her uncle passed away, and sure, he is still family, and you want to try and have some kind of services associated with him, but nonetheless, I think for her to completely ignore where you're coming from, as well as why you don't want to be around her family based on what she has blatantly told you, is a big red flag in my opinion. So I would personally take a good hard look at your relationship with her, because this does not look like a healthy relationship unless some serious changes are made on her end. My sister has a toxic marriage, and it's the main reason why I don't hang around her anymore, and I'm stuck not knowing how to explain this to her, and I don't know what to do. The title says it all. I'm having trouble being there for my sister, and I'm not sure how to tell her why. I'm about 2 years out of a 17-year marriage that ended extremely badly. We had issues throughout the relationship, but the last couple of years, he was intensely controlling, abusive, and violent, and since he left, I've done a lot of work to recover and get myself in a healthy headspace. My sister went through a rough patch around the same time my divorce started, and I learned way too much about her husband, and this made me never want to trust him again. They've been together for years, and while he's never been my family's favorite, we all just kind of dealt with it because she loved him and we wanted to support her. But since their rough patch, I have not been able to be around him. During that time, he served her with divorce papers and told her he was going to take their 1-year-old baby away and never let my sister see her again. He convinced my sister she would lose in court anyways, to the point that her plan was to give up, sign all the paperwork he gave her, and leave their baby while she moved out of state with our other sister. This all sounds bad, but my sister is extremely naive and also has the worst anxiety I've ever seen. She was convinced that she would lose their baby no matter what, and she was so broken down, she didn't have it in her to fight. She told me this plan, and I successfully talked her out of it. I got her a great lawyer, and she was on her way towards accepting their divorce and rebuilding her life. That is, until he suddenly changed his mind, and they reconciled and have been acting like everything is fine ever since. During her eventually abandoned divorce, my sister was terrified of being homeless and not having anywhere to go. I was starting over too, so our plan was that I would buy a place to live, so she as well as her baby could live there with me, as well as my little brother, who would be in this home with us. I went ahead with that plan and have just been renting out my sister's space and let her know it's there if she ever needs it. I cannot be around my sister's husband at all. I've been behind the scenes. I know he's abusing her emotionally, financially, and I strongly suspect physically too, although she would never admit it. I am aware that the right thing to do here is to support her decision and grin and bear his company, but I simply can't do it. I get that it's immature of me, but the situation is too much like my own marriage, and I won't be within 100 feet of it. I especially don't want him in my new home, which for 2 years has been a happy, healthy, and peaceful safe zone. My sister basically won't leave the house without this man, all because of her anxiety and also his controlling issues. And they are literally always together. She posted on Instagram a few weeks ago about being sad and confused about why her family never spends time with her anymore. I'd like to gently explain the situation to her, but I'm not sure how to tactfully say it's not you, it's your awful husband that we cannot stand. I'm honestly looking for advice on how to do this because I'm honestly at a loss and I'm not sure what to do. This is a really hard one because, as you said it, she's in a very sketchy situation. Her husband is actively a terrible person and he has insinuated some awful things to her. So for your own personal well-being, I don't blame you for deciding, hey, I'm not going to be around this man. You could very well discuss this to her in private, but I think that's where it needs to stay. This needs to be a private situation. To publicly discuss this would be very disrespectful to your sister as well as everybody around you, because this is obviously a very sensitive subject. But I think you have it right. You really do need to just support her no matter what, especially since it sounds like she was the victim of all of this. So hopefully it works out and hopefully your sister comes to her senses and is able to get away from her really abusive husband, because nobody deserves to be treated like that. My twin sister is in a toxic relationship and I'm not sure what to do about it. I'm a 26-year-old female and my twin sister is dating her toxic boyfriend. I'm also going to be using fake names. So my sister's fake name is going to be Emily and her boyfriend's fake name is going to be Justin. So Emily and Justin have been dating for about 3 months now. Emily and I are extremely close, especially when you consider that we're identical twins. We live an hour apart, but we'll see each other usually once or twice a week. We have a lot in common. We have some of the same interests, we have the same style, similar personalities, but we do have different tastes in partners. Justin is very manipulative and is slowly changing small things about her, and thus is removing parts of her personality to the point that I don't even know who my twin is anymore. When they started dating, she had a full-time job, she had a working car, and she was living at our mom's house. About a week into dating, Emily basically started living at Justin's house about 20 minutes away from my mom's. Whenever she would go to Justin's, she would cut off all communication with us. No text messages, no phone calls, nothing. I do have her location on my phone, so at least I know where she was, but that was about it. She wouldn't just go to Justin's house for a few hours. She would go for days at a time, with basically zero communication with us. Not to mention, her cat is living at my mom's house, so my mom was forced to take care of him without Emily asking her, which was just blatantly rude. Mind you, this is literally 1 week into their relationship. Then, 2 weeks in, they start to go on these weekend trips to remote areas, 2 to 4 hours away from home. They wouldn't say when they were coming back. Emily would just kind of show back up after a few days, not giving my mom any heads up on when she would be returning. Then, after a few more weeks in, Emily's voice started changing. She started to slow down the end of her sentences and stretch out the length of her words in a way that was similar to the way Justin talks. On a trip about 4 weeks into their relationship, she sent us photos of them, and I noticed that her smile had changed. She used to smile with her teeth, and we have this big glowing contagious smiles, but now she smiled with her mouth pinned shut, the corners of her mouth turned up slightly. It is very ominous looking and it just looks fake. I looked at photos of Justin, and he smiles with that closed mouth look as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he said something to her like, "You have such a nice smile, but I think you look prettier when you smile without your teeth," or something like that. Weeks later, about a month ago now, early to mid-August, she quit her job, all out of the blue. She quit her job with absolutely no plan to make money a different way. She also sold her completely fine working car and bought a very, very, very old junk car with over 300,000 miles on it that is falling apart. And I'm guessing it's because Justin had an old car similar to it. 2 weeks ago, she asked us now to call her M instead of Emily. Similarly, Justin now goes by Just, which Emily told us to now call him. So basically, out of the blue, Emily is now M and Justin is now Just. They both happen to want to change their names at the same time. I mean, that's just a coincidence, right? She claims that she always wanted an old truck. She always wanted to quit her job, and that she's always wanted to be called by the name M. Stuff that a twin sister would have known about if it was actually true. I 100% know that Justin has fed her into this belief on changing major things about her life that aren't actually what she wants to do. At the present day, Emily and Justin basically now live at his place. I never hear from her. My mom still takes care of her cat, and I don't know how my sister is making money. I don't know what her life plans are. She has no job, and she rarely talks to me. We used to be so close and attached to the hip, and now I don't even know who my own twin sister is. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. This sounds like some big red flags in my opinion. For all these things to be suddenly changing about her out of nowhere is quite concerning, especially since it coincides so much with how Justin is acting. That's just not fair for Emily in this situation. Based on what you've described, Justin really does look like the culprit behind all of this. Quitting your job, getting rid of your car, changing your name and the way you talk and laugh and smile, it all just sounds super suspicious. So if I was in your shoes, I would definitely try and take time to pull my sister aside and say, hey, what is going on? Is there something you're not telling me, and are you safe? See if you can at least get some kind of alone time with her and explain to her that what you're seeing is really concerning, especially as her twin sister. You only want the best for her, right? And hopefully if you can explain that to her, she can understand that as well. Hopefully things are better than the way they look on the outside looking in, because if they really are as bad as you're describing, then this is probably a very bad situation for your twin. My entitled ex is demanding child support payments for a kid that isn't even mine. And worst of all, my mother and sister are on their side, and I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Some years ago, I dated a girl, and the relationship was just bad. She was very controlling and very abusive. It ended up really bad and we just broke up. I kept on going with my life, and after some years, I got a decent job. And this job was enough to solve all my needs. And now I have a comfortable life, and I'm able to save some of my money. The thing is, a couple of months after getting my job, my ex contacted me, and at first, all she wanted to do was talk. I believe that she may want to reconnect or something, but she showed up with a 5-year-old child claiming that he was my son and demanded child support. I didn't believe her, but her child's age matched up when we cut off contact. I got advice from a lawyer to try and solve this out of court, so I offered to take responsibility and pay all the costs and being an active partner of the kid's life, only after making a DNA test. Everyone was okay with this except for my ex. She acted offended. She then demanded that I just give her the money that she deserved. She used all the excuses that she could, even contacting my family and telling them that I was trying to avoid taking responsibility for her child. When she ran out of excuses and the DNA test was finally made, much to nobody's surprise, I'm not the father. She was so mad with the results and cried about the money, saying it was unfair and that she deserved it, but she didn't accomplish anything. Fast forward to last week, there was a little party at my parents' house. My brother, a friend, and I were talking, and my brother started to joke about the situation with my ex. My friend and I started to joke about it too, and some of our comments were a little bit dark and bad, but we were far away from the rest of the people, literally on the opposite side of the house, so nobody else could hear us. At least that's what we thought. We were just laughing like crazy when my sister appeared very angry and pushed me against the wall. She spied us and heard the conversation, and she was very mad. She then started to yell at us about how terrible of people we were for mocking a poor woman. A few hours later, when the party ended, she asked me to go to the kitchen with our parents, and she started to say how awful I was for the previous situation. Apparently, my ex had been in contact with her, and she believed her version of the story, and that this was her way of having some kind of intervention. My brother and I were like, are you serious? You can't be serious, right? Especially when she started to say how I forced my ex into being a single mother, and that apparently I had a moral obligation to help her out. My dad only said that maybe we were being too cruel making jokes about her, and that I wasn't responsible for that kid. My mom then surprised all of us when she said, even if the kid is not yours, you are making more than enough money to support that child. You should have helped her out. Since then, I have been receiving text messages from my dad and my brother who are on my side saying I'm not responsible for her, but my sister is telling me how horrible I am for basically ruining her life. My mom only said, well, it's your decision and I respect it. I'm just very disappointed that you ended up being so selfish. I'm aware that she doesn't deserve money and I'm not planning to give her any, but the constant harassment from my sister trying to guilt trip me into giving money to my crazy ex-girlfriend is honestly just exhausting. Your mom and sister are giant pieces of garbage, as well as your ex-girlfriend. All of them collectively giant pieces of garbage. The fact that they would try and guilt trip you into giving money to your ex, who is very clearly just trying to steal money out of your pocket, is disgusting. I'm honestly surprised you didn't go back to him with a DNA test, shove it in their face and say, here you go, the kid's not mine. Like legitimately, you do not owe that lady any money. She clearly only came back to you because you have a well-paying job and all your needs are being met. She literally only wanted you for money. So I don't blame you for stepping back and saying, hey, I don't owe you anything. And as for the jokes at this lady's expense, honestly, if I was in this situation, I probably would be doing the same thing. Humor's a great way of coping with stressful situations, situations. And obviously, these were made in private, and it's not like he was posting this all over social media or something. It was literally amongst his friends and his brother, which also begs the question, why was his sister eavesdropping in the shadows, trying to figure out what's going on? Like, in my opinion, I think it's time to distance yourself from your mom and your sister, because clearly they're on your ex's side, which in my opinion is just ridiculous. And I seriously can't believe that your mom's like, you already make enough money, you should just give her money anyways. That's such a toxic thing to say, like as if you didn't work hard enough already just to get the job that you have and the money that you currently have as well. So in my opinion, I would ignore them completely and keep moving forward with your life. And you're going to enjoy that life because you won't have to make child support payments for a kid that isn't even yours. My boyfriend's depression is slowly starting to make my depression even worse, especially since he refuses to accept that he is depressed. And now I'm considering breaking up with him because of this, and I'm not sure what to do. I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years now. We've been through a lot together and have been facing with more than our fair share of issues, especially financial ones. When I first met my boyfriend, he had debts, huge ones at that. He first didn't want to share it with me and asked me for help behind fake stories. We broke up shortly because of the lying and then got back together, but I've never really been able to fully trust him ever since then. I did help him with his financial situation to the point where I'm today in the same situation with debts. I lost my job, I'm having a really hard time finding a new one, and it's the same situation for him. For 3 years, we've been together through a lot. I had business partners stealing from me, we had accidents with a lot to pay, we had a flooding that we needed to deal with, my card had been hacked, the list goes on. I've always had a tendency to fall into depression, and with all that's been going on, I think I'm hitting my limits. I do see a therapist, but this depression episode is the worst ever, and I can't stop crying and so on. The thing is, my boyfriend is also depressed because of all of this, and rightfully so, but his reaction to this is sleeping, waiting for things to get done like cooking or cleaning, and he is so irritable that it's a pain to even talk to him, which he doesn't even want to do that anymore. He considers his situation to be a lot worse because he compares himself to me and considers me Wonder Woman, assuming that I can deal with everything. Because of our financial issue, we have been considering living with my parents. My family is just the best. They're super helpful and they offered this to us. But I know that his attitude will never be appreciated by my parents and that it will likely embarrass me very badly. The overall situation is just draining me emotionally. He has no family and no friends in the country, so I feel responsible for him, but I feel like my only exit is for me to go back and live with my parents alone. But I know that for him, it will be the last big hit and that he will not be able to manage it. We had a talk tonight about the situation, and once more, he just doesn't acknowledge the fact that it is very visible that he's depressed and might need to get into therapy. He is then coming to me to try and make me laugh and change my mood, but I don't want us to bury our head in the sand any longer and ignore this. If he were willing to address the situation, I would be his support without question, but I'm honestly at a loss. I'm thinking that maybe our common depression might be a red flag that this is just not supposed to work out. What should I do? This is definitely a tricky situation because you have a full awareness that yeah, you struggle with depression, but your boyfriend is not willing to admit it, which can probably be very frustrating in this relationship. You can see the writing on the wall, you can see the symptoms and all the things going on and stuff like that, and he just is not ready to accept that, which is fine. And if you're not compatible in that way and it's causing problems with your relationship, then this is definitely something you need to reevaluate. And I don't think there's any harm in thinking about yourself in this situation. So hopefully this all works out for you, and hopefully your boyfriend is at least able to find the help that he needs, because it sounds like he needs it, especially considering all the things that both of you have been through. I have been ignored for a year by my husband, and I just found out why, and now I don't know what to do. I'm a 35-year-old female, and I've been married to my husband for 8 years, and my husband has been very distant for well over a year now. I have tried over and over to talk to him, to get him to open up to me, but he keeps telling me that we'll talk later, but later just doesn't happen. He keeps me shut out completely. I am a stay-at-home mom. We have 2 kids, both under 7 years old, that he does not pay attention to. He doesn't help with any chores. He doesn't help with the kids. Whenever they try to get his attention or even try just to talk to him, he gets really irritated, and then he ends up yelling at them just to leave him alone and leaves the room anytime any one of us comes into it just to see him. I honestly feel like I'm living with a stranger. When he comes home from work, he goes straight to his computer and spends all of his time on it. If he's off from work, he's on his computer literally all day. He left his computer open and I looked at it. I understand that it's an invasion of privacy, and I know I shouldn't have, but I did. I found out that he's been looking at a lot of inappropriate pictures online online, if you know what I mean. I also found out that he's been sending some DMs with some other people where they were talking about possibly meeting up, but he hasn't responded yet. And he even went as far as to look up and find out that this person he was messaging lives in our city. I am so devastated that he's trying to have another relationship outside of our marriage. We are not in an open marriage, and this isn't the first time where he secretly tried to meet up with someone. A couple of years ago, he met up with a woman who he was interested in the guise of trying to do an art project with her, and got shut down when he realized she was just trying to be nice and wanted nothing to do with him. I don't know if he's met up with any more people from the first time that he did it, but after these DMs with this other person, I'm just not sure. I honestly don't know what to do. I don't know how to go about talking about it with him. I'm just so sick to my stomach about all of it, and I'm at a loss of how to proceed. Well, it sounds like your husband is basically going behind your back to try and meet up with another woman, which is completely inappropriate. And it sounds like he's tried this once before, but it failed miserably. And now it sounds like he's found somebody who could possibly make this happen, which is terrible for you and your kids. He is literally throwing your marriage out the window, and that is not fair for you. So in my opinion, I think it's time to talk to a divorce attorney. The last thing I'm going to do is tell you whether you should or shouldn't get divorced. That's none of my business. But from the outside looking in, I would take the steps necessary to secure some kind of future for you as well as your kids. It might be time for you to step up and do what you can to protect them. He's mistreating and yelling at your kids, and he's treating you like garbage. Your children are going to have a lifetime of wondering why their dad walked out on them, and they're going to need a parent who actually cares and that is actually going to be there for them. So it's time to step up and think about the future of your children, because your husband has made a very clear choice that he wants to try and mess around while you're married, and that's honestly only going to cause problems in this relationship. My sister blocked me because I wouldn't cancel my plans just to see her and her son, and now I don't know what to do. The title says it all. My sister blocked me because I had other plans, and I couldn't come visit her and my nephew. First, some backstory. I am in the military, and I come home to visit about once a year. My sister has some behavioral and mental health issues. I am home visiting for 2 weeks. I have a big family and a good amount of friends. I try to see everyone I can while I'm here, and I always end up driving hours and hours out of the day trying to see everyone while I'm in town, because even though I drove over 1,000 miles to come here, I'm still the one that has to travel everywhere to see everyone that's here. My sister has a baby boy. My nephew's almost 1 year old. I met him in real life for the first time while I've been here. I've gone to see him twice. One time, I even left a family reunion early to see him, and I arrived to a family event on the other side late just so I could see him again. There were people I wouldn't be able to see if I didn't come to these events. I had a great time and I had a lot of fun. Today, I have plans to meet in real life with another group of people that I game with daily and have been for the past 3 years. We've been planning this for months, and today is the only day everyone's schedules match up. We're all going to a restaurant, and I have to pick up 2 of them on the way. My sister suddenly messaged me out of nowhere asking me if I would be able to come and visit her. I explained that I had plans and I unfortunately could not. But after I said that, she blew up on me and said that she doesn't want to see me again before I leave. And then she blocked me and isn't answering any of my text messages either. At this point, I don't know what to do. I'm definitely not going to cancel my plans, but I feel like absolute trash now. She knows exactly how to make me feel bad in the worst possible ways. I also struggle with depression and see a therapist regularly. How do I best approach my sister to try and get her to understand and maybe try to calm her down? I leave in 3 days and I don't want to leave like this. What should I do? Your sister's being very manipulative. She's using your depression and your anxiety against you. At this point, she has to know that you're here on limited time. You don't have all the time in the world to see people, and you plan this event with your friends months in advance. So for you to just give that up all of a sudden and say, hey, I'm gonna go see my sister instead, would be very insulting to the people that you planned with. And honestly, the fact that your sister doesn't understand that is definitely her problem. This is not your problem in the slightest. So I honestly would not feel bad about this situation. And you said it yourself, she knows exactly how to make you feel bad in the worst possible way. So I just would not allow her to use these tactics just to make you feel like garbage so that you can bend to her will. Because that's exactly what she's doing from my perspective. So if I was in your shoes, I would go about with my plans just like normal and ignore this temper tantrum, because you already have plans. And if she can't understand that, like legitimately, then that is her problem, not yours. My stepdad is in love with me, and I don't know what to do. I'm 22 years old, and I've had my stepdad around for about 12 years now, and I'm at a point where I'm pretty sure he's in love with me. This is a very intense assumption, but I'm not a delusional woman that likes the drama that comes with such attention. He has been diagnosed with MS, a form of Parkinson's recently, and he only has a couple of years left to live. With this diagnosis, his behavior has been more apparent in contrast than within the past couple of years, because I've always had a suspicion. He has his own kids, 4 of them in fact, and I have 3 sisters, and his attention has always gravitated towards me. My mother and my stepdad don't share any kids. Also, I'm the youngest. He's a shy man who keeps to himself, but in slick ways, he has always made it apparent that I'm his favorite. This was usually made clear through my mother as well. She has made comments on how he always talks to me, how proud he is of me, and how beautiful and smart I am, which can be seen at face value as pretty innocent for the most part. But my mom is a very accommodating woman. She goes along with him to please him, and I'm pretty sure it just goes right over her head. But it goes even further. He texts me unusual stuff sometimes. He mentions how he sometimes stares at my profile picture just to admire me. He calls me his princess, his little one, and many other things that come off as flirtatious. He never does this when anyone else is around, so usually it's just over text messaging. I'm certain of a fact that he doesn't call his own kids or my sisters anything similar. He only does this with my mother as well, but he is not even that direct or flirtatious with her. It's bizarre. He's a simple, unromantic man, so this is something that he doesn't even do in his own relationship, so it makes me question why he's doing this to me. Recently, he saw me wearing one of his old sweaters he gave my mom because I was cold, and when he got home, he text messaged me and said that he loves seeing me wearing his clothes, which I didn't know how to respond. Over the years, he was planning to immigrate to Canada, and he had always made the comment, but only if the little ones come along with us. And he was very serious about it as well, looking for universities for me and making plans for my paperwork even before I even agreed on joining them, which isn't that weird overall, but I'm a grown woman, and he doesn't need for me to just tag along like I'm a kid that's dependent on him. If I was still underage, sure, that's understandable. If that were the case, then yes, they should take care of me and think of me, but that isn't the current situation. My other sister also still lives at home, and he never had the intention to take her as well, which made it apparent he only wanted me to go with them. To make the situation even weirder, he once made the comment, as well as the joke I'm assuming, basically suggesting that we just leave my mother behind and that me and him just move away together. My mother wasn't present, and it felt like the joke had a hidden meaning. He was very pushy about it and never truly asked me to do that, but simply made the assumption that I wanted to go with them. And in the rare moments that I'm alone with him, the tensions between us become very high in the household. He doesn't live with us, and he never has, so I usually see him on the weekends when he comes to pick my mom up. But when we, my mother and I, or my sister and I, had arguments, I was usually the one to walk away to go to my room. He would then come to my room to ease the tension and try to fix it. One time, I was having an argument with my sister. I was sitting on my balcony, and he came to talk to me. After some conversation, I got emotional, which I rarely am. I cried and he comforted me, which is also very rare because it's not often that I'm vulnerable in front of another. He hugged me, which also never happens because I'm not an affectionate person, but I just accepted it because at the time I feel like he meant well. When he pulled away, he stared into my eyes and cupped my face. It was at night and we couldn't see each other that clearly, but I could swear on everything he had the intention to kiss me. I felt overwhelmed. I pulled away and started the conversation almost instantaneously to ease the awkwardness, and after that happened, I never spoke up about it. I'm a very private person, so I rarely speak about my love life, but on the rare occasion that I do, I usually get comments like, "Oh, you are such a pretty and smart woman," and then he'll basically say that I should have a man like him. I have many other things to push my point, but to come to the question, he lives further away from us, but because of his condition, he wants to move, which I don't look forward to at all. He wants to get an apartment on the same street as us just to be close to my mom, so that she can take care of him. This is understandable, but last night I got a text message that he had only sent to me and not my sister or my mother, going on about how he's doing this to be close to me, and so I can easily come visit him before his condition becomes, well, unfortunate. I think this diagnosis is fading away his morals, and he is getting more outspoken about his feelings for me because of it. But I can't talk to my mother about this. I simply can't. I would not be able to tolerate him living so close by. He would expect a lot of attention, and it would make me very anxious. He is a very egotistical man, besides him being kind, and would take it as an offense, especially given the circumstances. His feelings for me are strange and inappropriate, but I would get nothing out of it to speak up about them. I can tolerate it, but only if he lives as far away as he does now. I'm honestly at a loss, and I don't know what to do. This is a terrible situation to be stuck in, but my automatic thought when I was reading through this was that maybe you need to move. Like, if this guy really is trying to make advances on you, then you need to get away from him. And I think you definitely need to talk to your mom about this. You need to share that text message and say, hey, this is what's going on, and then explain to her that you feel very uncomfortable around him. Also, the original poster is 22 years old. Moving out and finding an apartment with some kind of roommate situation is possible. And under no circumstances, in my opinion, if he's acting this way, should you ever be alone with him ever again. It's not appropriate, he's being weird, and there's no reason for you to put yourself in that situation. So I think now's the time for you to start taking steps to move yourself out and move yourself away from this man, because his behavior is incredibly inappropriate, and you absolutely do not have to put up with that. My entitled nephews break into my shed and rob me blind, but when I confronted their parents about this, they dismissed me and blew me off. So I went to the police and I had them arrested. Here's what happened. About midway through last week, when I came home from work, I noticed my shed door was open, and the padlock that I used to keep it shut was broken as well. I had a lot of bags full of soda cans in there. My friends and I tend to drink a lot of soda, so I've built up a lot of cans over the course of about a year, and I was going to cash them in at a recycling place soon because I like big payouts. At the place I was going to go to, it's about 10 cents a can. But there was more than just my bags of cans missing from the shed too. I was also missing my gardening shears, my steel rake, my shovels, as well as 2 full gallons of gasoline. I also lost my power drill that was like $5, so I hope it was worth it, as well as an electric hedge trimmer and a small electric chainsaw that I also used. But whoever broke into this didn't touch my lawnmower, weed whacker, extension cords, as well as several other items that they just blatantly left alone, and I have no idea why they took what they did. I guess maybe whoever did this broke in thinking that they could resell it or something. So I went to my security cameras, and lo and behold, it was my nephews. All 3 of these entitled teenagers broke into my shed using one of their dad's large claw hammers. I recognize the hammer because it's a bright yellow and black one, and their dad has a bunch of them. It only took them a few hits to smash the cheap lock. After they first broke into my shed, they took what they could by hand, and then they came back with shopping carts that I'm guessing that they also stole. It took them a few trips to get all of the cans, and they didn't even bother to try and close the door when they were done. And with this evidence in hand, I went to my sister and my brother-in-law, and at first, before I could show them anything, they denied that their kids stole anything from me. So I decided to surprise them with security footage that they had no idea about. In fact, I've had to put up cameras before because of their kids. This is not an isolated incident, and this is not the first time that they've robbed me blind. It started with foods and snacks, and then these little thieves moved on to DVDs and video games. Then, after they got their grubby hands on all of that, they would basically take anything they could get their hands on. And anytime I made them return my stuff that they had stolen from me, I was treated like the bad guy. And then I got the fakest apologies I've ever heard. And they never got in much trouble either from their parents. The final straw happened last year when my nephews broke into my house and stole 3 6-packs of my favorite blood orange beer from my fridge. They used my spare hidden key just to get into my home. And guess what? When I went to my brother-in-law and my sister and talked to him about this, all they said was, "Oh, well, boys will be boys." And this is where things got interesting. When my sister and brother-in-law saw the camera footage of my nephews stealing from me, they seemed furious. But in all actuality, they were more angry that their boys skipped school than they were of them stealing from me. They had spent all day making repeated trips to the bottle drop and cashing in my cans. And they used that money to buy video games and junk food. The money that they got amounted to nearly $200. With that and the destroyed padlock, I told my sister and brother-in-law that they now owed me over $200. My sister and brother-in-law went from being angry at their kids to then making excuses for them, and then to being angry at me for wanting that money back when I know they have 3 kids and a mortgage. I said it was either that or I go to the police and I press charges. At that point, they had had enough, so they told me to get out, and I said that they have 2 days to decide how to pay me back before I go to the cops. I ended up getting back everything that my nephew stole from me. But over the next couple of days, my sister and brother-in-law were blowing up my phone with tons of messages. At first, they were calling me heartless because it was right after the holidays, and they have 3 kids and a mortgage, again, repeating the same line. They then started gaslighting me, which then progressed to them threatening me. And all of of this would go on a repeat cycle. My nephews chimed in from another cell phone and were sending me lots of messages on their own, which were all just more fake apologies and more gaslighting. My eldest nephew even sent me a picture of himself holding a soda can and giving me the middle finger. So I guess they weren't taking my threats of going to the police seriously, all because we were family. When I spoke with my sister and brother-in-law, they refused to negotiate any sort of method of repayment for what my nephews did, even when I tried to give suggestions that maybe they sell off the video game so that I can get my money back. It just simply was not enough. Then they had the audacity to say that I had actually tempted my nephews by having the cans in my shed to begin with. Yes, you heard that right. Apparently, I'm the devil snake that tempted my nephews with a shed full of cans, basically enticing them to cash it in for money. So at that point, I had just about enough, and I decided that was it. I went to the police station that morning and I filed the report. I gave them a copy of the video footage of my nephews stealing from my shed. I gave them the broken lock that they smashed. I showed them all of the text messages, which were screenshotted and also given as evidence. I even gave them a copy of the photo my eldest nephew sent me of him flipping me off. Not too long after that, my nephews were indeed arrested on Saturday. The police came to their house and my sister and brother-in-law were forced to let them in because they had a warrant. Apparently, all three of my nephews went from being cocky little brats to crying like babies when they were being put in handcuffs. I know this because a neighbor I'm acquainted with, that's sort of friends with my sister, was there to see it happen. And shortly after the arrest, my sister and brother-in-law were blowing up my phone again. They weren't able to get their kids out of jail till Monday morning, and now the boys are being charged with larceny, willful destruction of property, and harassment. The police took this whole case pretty seriously, as there has been complaints about my nephews for some time, but nothing was proven until now. Apparently, over the past few months, bags of cans have actually been going missing all over the area, and while I don't know if it's my nephews or not, they most definitely now are likely suspects. And with word spreading of their arrest, let's hope other neighbors with security cameras come forward with more footage. As you could probably guess, my sister and brother-in-law showed up at my house. I refused to open the door and told them that this all happened because they are enablers who refuse to hold their kids accountable for their actions. And when I said that, that just made them scream and pound on my door more, till I threatened to call the police on them too. And since I've done it already, they know I mean it by now. So they left without any more trouble, but they went back to blowing up my phone. I didn't block my sister or my brother-in-law. Instead, I decided to save all of the messages they send me because I've made the decision to take them to small claims court over this. I don't really need or want the money and have already replaced the damaged padlock with a much better one. However, the kids aren't the only ones who need to be taught a lesson. In the end, I hope I put them in enough of a hole that they learn not to mess with me ever again. I also have the full support of my family on this. My cousins, my aunts, my parents, everybody. They're all supporting me in this because my nephews have stolen from them too. And after banning my nephews from my house, some of them have done the same. I'm going to push for my nephews to get community service. And the reason why isn't just because it's a good idea, but also because I know they'll hate that the most. Whenever they are made to do any kind of work they don't want to do it, they just stand around griping and act like the whole world is against them. So hardly anything ever gets done. Perhaps a few hundred hours of unpaid work will teach them some manners. They've been spoiled for far too long. Honestly, you did these kids a big favor, because what starts out as soda cans and gardening tools soon becomes something seriously illegal. And based on the way things are being described, these parents also need to be taught a lesson, because the way they're acting is so inappropriate. It's absolutely ridiculous to protect your kid over something like this and not allow the consequences to come their way. And if they had just paid back the original poster, all of this could have been avoided, but they wanted to be stubborn. So you know what? At the end of the day, what goes around comes around, and these nephews absolutely had it coming. I no longer want to have kids with my wife, and I don't know how to discuss this with her or where to even start. My wife of 3 years and I had intended to have children shortly after marriage. The pandemic interrupted that idea, and it wasn't until the start of this year that we decided to try again. It wasn't long until she did end up pregnant, but it turned sour a few months in. I was ready for her to be more irritable and need a lot of help, but I wasn't ready to be shouted at on a daily basis and insulted over every little disagreement. The one time I put my foot down and told her, for example, that I'm not going back to the store to get a specific snack when our pantry was full of food, in retaliation, she threw a can of soda at my head. After that, I packed my bags and I went to visit my brother for a few days. 2 days in, she calls me and tells me that she had a miscarriage. It was a terrible situation and she was an absolute mess. mess. I go back to the house and she's sitting there sobbing and telling me she's sorry for everything she did and that losing our child was her fault for being so terrible. Over the last month, we've been working to recover from the loss and rebuilding our marriage. She's mostly back to the same wonderful person I married, and I believe her behavior really was based on pregnancy hormones. My brother, though, isn't convinced and wanted me to stay with him, but I couldn't bring myself to abandon my wife after miscarrying. The problem I have now is my wife is talking about trying for a kid again. I have forgiven her for the behavior before, but I am not willing to go through that again. For me, kids are no longer an option between us as far as I see it, but I don't know how to express this without sounding confrontational and controlling. I do want to stay married with my wife. This one short time aside, she has been an amazing partner in so many ways, and I don't want to throw that away. But I don't want her to get pregnant ever again though, and I know that's a lot to ask. If she agrees, I'll propose that we both get sterilized to be extra sure and fair. Does that sound reasonable? Is there some other approach that I should take? What should I do? I think being honest and open with your wife and saying, hey, I don't want kids anymore would really be the best thing to say, and you probably need to be ready for whatever reaction you do get from her, because there is a chance that she probably will not want to be married with you anymore, and that's just something you have to be ready for. But saying out loud as well as posting that you do not want kids is, in my opinion, a very responsible thing to own up to, because the irresponsible thing would be to have a few kids and then realizing after the fact that no, I actually don't want kids. Knowing that you don't want kids up front, despite how your wife is gonna feel about it, is very responsible in my opinion. But I think if anything, couples counseling would probably be a very good step for both of you. It sounds like some underlying issues might be going on here, and it might be in your best interest to look into that. My girlfriend is not honoring our debt agreement, and at this point, I don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years. She is a very kind, wonderful person, but she's a workaholic, as well as a former alcoholic, 11 years sober, and I'm also 2 years sober. COVID was hard on us. We had just spent most of our savings to move across the country, and we were both laid off early after getting a pretty nice place, because at the time, we were making good money. I'm happy to say we are well situated now, having both gotten even better jobs than before, and even bought a house together before interest rates skyrocketed. But before I was sober, I wasn't great with money. I've since gotten much better, but I had racked up about $14,000 in credit card debt. When we went on unemployment, the interest was very expensive. My kind girlfriend opened a joint account with 0% interest for 24 months, and so we transferred the debt over to save me on interest. Fast forward to when we both have jobs in January of 2022, and we're in therapy for a bunch of other reasons. She says she wants to be paid back, so we keep separate finances and put anything we split into Splitwise, which is an app that tracks who owes what. We both like it and it works really well for us. So I suggest we put all $14,000 into Splitwise. I'll cover the next $28,000 of household expenses, and she can use the money that she saves to pay down the debt, to which she agrees. So for the next 8 months, I cover all household expenses. I even got a second job just to help out, and I successfully paid down the debt. A little bit of background before we go any further. Her father is terminally ill. I noticed a lot of boxes showing up at the house during this time, with clothing, shoes, bags, and other stuff almost every day. I wanted to say something, but we're both very hands-off with how each other spends their money, and figured it was none of my business. She's very sensitive to me telling her how to do things, or inquiring about stuff like that. So I paid down the debt, and I'm pretty proud of myself. And I find out afterwards that she didn't pay down a single cent of it. She then accuses me of tricking her, misleading her, and not actually paying down the debt, apparently because I didn't give her any cash. I make a spreadsheet of all of the expenses I had covered. Meals, insurance, mortgage payments, car payments, all things that she would have had to pay if I hadn't covered them. But it doesn't sway her at all. She insists I still owe her for the debt. Well, she sort of comes around and recognizes it's her debt now. But we have other debt. Since we were both unemployed for 14 months, we racked up a large back rent bill. Also because we got into a fight with the landlord because the place was not up to code according to the city and was declared uninhabitable. We had lots of problems that he never fixed. I had to hire attorneys after we moved, and through a lot of hard work on my part, negotiated the debt down to 50%. So far, I've been paying off this debt myself as part of the debt that I owe her, but now it was supposed to be her time to start contributing 50%. Naturally, she's saying I should just assume all payments for that debt, which is still about $20,000, since according to her, I didn't actually pay her back for the other debt. And at this this point, I'm just at a loss. I worked very hard, like I said, getting a second job, just so I could pay her back for what I owed her, because she made it clear that was important. She could check any time she wanted in the application and see that the debt was being paid down and by how much. I'm flabbergasted that she would now accuse me of not paying it down and demanding that I take on this other debt. It makes me feel so distant from her, and I feel very hurt. How can I approach her and get her to understand? For context, she came from a very poor family, which has entirely shaped her way of thinking about money. She's a penny pincher to the max. I came from wealth and privilege, and I recognize that. And I have an abundance mentality. I don't put anything under $50 on our expense tracking app, but in contrast, she will put down $3 iTunes rental fees into the app. Honestly, since it's not a massive sum of money, like I said, we both do really well, I am just going to be leaning towards just paying it off as long as she agrees to stop complaining and fighting me over this. It's all so painful and is doing lasting damage to the relationship, but if I do, I know I will resent her for it. What should I do? It seems like you made this way more complicated than you need to. Like, I don't know why you decided to group your debts all together and mix your finances together. I think that honestly was where your first problem is. Also, you didn't get anything in writing, so of course she can say, nope, you owe me more, because there's nothing in writing and there's just bank statements. Which, by the way, how is that not enough to prove that you've been paying stuff? Like, your girlfriend doesn't sound like she's at all caring about the money that you've already paid. So in my opinion, I think it's time to separate your finances, because otherwise you very well could owe her more money somehow. And I seriously think that's the last thing that anybody wants. My mother-in-law has been living with us for the past 2 years, and I don't know how to get her out of our house. My mother-in-law and her husband lived originally in mainland China. Her husband passed away suddenly, and my Chinese wife invited her to come and live with us. And I accepted, thinking it would be a temporary thing, and also a way to thank her for the donation she provided for the condo's down payment that we're currently living in. And then suddenly the pandemic happened, and except for a short 2-month period, my mother-in-law has been living with us since the summer of 2019. While our apartment is modern, it only has 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. We do have 2 kids, and we live on top of each other right now. We frequently have bathroom issues. We've even had an instance where one of my kids has gone to the bathroom on the floor because my mother-in-law has been in the bathroom for an eternity. Worse of all, I don't speak Mandarin or Chinese, and she is not learning English. I tolerated this during the pandemic because there was no travel possible, but now that the pandemic is finished, I find this less and less tolerable. I have tried multiple times discussing with my wife exactly how I've never accepted the situation, but she has not given up anything or really listened to me in the first place. The situation is good for her because she gets to be close to her mother. Her mom also cooks half the time, as well as cleans up the house, so she really doesn't have to do any chores. The truth of the matter is, her mom has an absurd amount of control on her daughter. She treats her as if my wife is still 12 years old, and that she can dictate exactly how things should be. Apart from the obvious bathroom issue and the lack of space, the biggest truth is that her mom is putting distance between us. Before we were quite close, and now she's spending most of her time with her mom. If this continues, I'll actually become the odd one out of the family. Since we have kids together, I don't want any breakup or any marriage issues. How would you approach this if you were in my situation? Would you take the harder route and just tell your wife that it's unacceptable and that her mom needs to go? Or would you do a soft approach? I'm looking to have some kind of one-on-one with my wife this weekend, and I really could use the advice. What should I do? If I was in your shoes, I definitely would have this conversation with my wife. I would explain to her exactly how I feel. I would explain to her that I was okay with your mother-in-law moving in, and we have made accommodations considering her circumstance, but I did not agree to her staying for 2 years. Our apartment is too small for this many people, we're climbing over each other, and our kids are having to go to the bathroom on the floor just because she's hogging the bathroom. That's not okay. And I think if you just explain it and lay it out exactly how it is, you can hopefully show your wife that yeah, some changes need to be made. I think in the worst case scenario, it might be time to look for a house. You have a lot of people living in a small apartment, and I don't think that's very fair for you or anybody living there. So if anything, maybe it's time to look for something bigger. Today, I messed up by putting anime stickers on my phone case, and boy do I regret it. For reference, my friends last year came into school with a lot of, how do you say, provocative anime girl stickers. We all laughed our heads off while shuffling through all of them, each one of us stealing a couple from the pile. Now, I didn't want my family or any of my teachers to see my new stash, so I slipped off my phone case, put the stickers in, along with a drawing a friend of mine had made me, and a sweet note from another friend I had in there, and closed my phone back up. Fast forward a year, and this morning I was a bit frazzled due to other school obligations, which caused me to be pretty careless with my phone, leaving it behind. I only realized this halfway through my 4th period, after I had some time to waste, wanting to pull out my phone and mindlessly scroll as I waited to be dismissed. Of course, I couldn't find it in the typical pouch I leave it in, or anywhere in my bag after dumping everything out. Confused, I went back onto my laptop and used Google's Find My Phone feature to try and figure out if I maybe left it on the bus or in a previous class. After realizing it was in the same building as my locker, I sighed out of relief as I had been at my locker that morning. I would just go to my locker quickly before heading to the cafeteria. I only had another period after this one, so it wasn't too bad of a wait. I was only about 30 minutes into my class period before lunch when I received a very ominous email from my school's dean. It said, "I believe I have located your phone. Please come to my room to retrieve it." And of course, at this moment, I started to panic, as I honestly thought that it was in my locker, but apparently it wasn't, and now our school's dean had it. My mind kept jumping on the same question. How did they know this was my phone? I have a pretty generic lock screen with a passcode, and nothing on my case indicates whose phone this is. After retrieving my phone, I turned it on to check any new notifications I had. I then turned my phone over, noticing a change. The drawing my friend had drew of me typically poked out of the camera hole just a little bit, leaving a little white piece of paper just under the camera. Confused, I popped open my phone case and noticed the trinkets inside had been mixed around, including those scandalous anime lady stickers. And that's when it hit me. The dean absolutely saw the stickers, every single one of them, and I could not be more embarrassed. This is really embarrassing, but there are a few silver linings to take from this. First off, you got your phone back, which is a big deal. It would be worse if you didn't get it back and you just couldn't find it. But also, at least you hid the stickers. It would be another thing if it was all over your phone. That would have been incredibly awkward otherwise. So it's not totally the end of the world. At least you kept your secret hidden. My boyfriend is addicted to playing GTA role-playing online and plays it 12 hours a day for 7 days a week. Things have gotten so bad that he refuses to work and has basically quit his job. And I honestly don't know what to do. The title says it all. My boyfriend of 5 years is addicted to GTA role-playing, and it's ruining our relationship. He spends 12 hours a day playing, he has no job, and he doesn't help around the house. I feel taken for granted, unloved, and I'm not sure what I can do to help him get a life. For lack of a better words, I'm kinda lost here. For a bit of background, he's always been a gamer. He would play his Xbox a few hours each day, and sometimes I would watch for a while, and sometimes I would just do my own thing. It never fazed me. I found comfort just being in his presence, and him chatting with his friends over the headset never bothered me either. Sometimes it was just some background noise, and sometimes it was quite entertaining. At the start of this year, he got a PC, and immediately got into GTA roleplaying. I was happy for him at first, because we used to watch YouTube videos of people playing roleplay servers, and always had a laugh, so I thought it was cool that he would get to join in on the fun. But things started to slowly unravel. When it comes to his job, he started calling in sick for work a lot. He's relatively new to this job and career as well, so he would just be sitting at home playing GTA, and he did this so much where he used up all of his sick leave and holiday leave. Maybe it's a coincidence, I don't know, but he tells me that he doesn't want to work there because of his anxiety and fear of heights. The job is not on the ground level, by the way, and that does check out for the most part. He is scared of heights, so I can understand that maybe this job is a bad choice after all, and he should try and find something else. But the only problem is that he never finds something else, which is starting to cause me a lot of stress. I only have a casual position at my job. If I'm sick or want time off, I don't get paid, so I feel a lot of pressure. At first, my approach was casual, when bringing up the topic of him finding something, and he never disagreed, always telling me something like, "Yeah, my friend wants to get me a job at a certain company, and that he's apparently waiting for him to let him know," or something like that. The casual approach kind of wore off after about a month, and since then, it's been endlessly nagging on my part. It's been like 8 months now, so I'm at a loss. But he always tells me that he has a friend who's getting him into something soon, and always just nods his head and agrees, like, "Yeah, I need a job." And I'm starting to think that maybe this is just his way of trying to get me to shut up. When it comes to our living environment, it has always been a bit of a struggle getting him to help around the house. He worked long physical hours, so I did pick up a lot of the slack at home, and only had to hound him to help me out every once in a while. But now, if not prompted or nagged by me, he does nothing. Literally nothing. And he's home all day. I get home from work, and for the next couple of hours, I'm straight into housework mode before I even allow myself to sit down and relax. He doesn't lift a finger unless I ask him to, and most of the time when I do ask him to help out, it takes 2 to 3 business days with countless reminders before he does the stupid task, and he normally does this with an attitude towards me. Our relationship has also taken a hit. He gets moody at me very often, especially when I try to talk to him about anything and everything. It seems to me at least that just the sound of my voice triggers him nowadays, most likely because mainly all I do is nag him to help out or just to get a job, and he's sick of hearing it. But I'll come home and I'll come in and try to say hello or just to talk about my day, but God forbid I interrupt his gaming session. He gets so mad, and for what reason? I will even leave him alone for a few hours just to try again, only to then get the same reaction from him. Most nights I fall asleep without him by my side, and when my alarm goes off in the morning, he's still on the computer. I've never been really all that clingy. He was always the clingy one before, and I would have to scream for some personal space, but now I barely get to sleep next to him at all, and it hurts me knowing that he would rather be in another reality, rather in bed with me in this reality, actually being able to touch and hold each other. I miss him and I love him, and I'm trying so hard to put myself in his position. I went through a few years where I was severely depressed, and my lifestyle was very similar, except instead of gaming, it was just binge watching shows and movies. And instead of no job, I just cut my hours back at work to make just enough money to survive. But that's all I wanted. I didn't want to be out of the house even a minute longer. I'm wondering if he is going through the same thing, and I don't know how to help. When I was going through something similar, anyone who tried to help out or talk some sense into me never really broke through. I was either too lazy to listen, or I simply could not be bothered to go through with it. I eventually came out of it because I decided to do so. So I can relate, but I just don't know how to help him. All of this week, I'm sleeping in a different bed. I have told him that I'm unhappy, and I'm tired of having the same conversations with him. A part of me hopes that he will realize that our relationship is falling apart, and he will start to make some changes. I still hear him in the computer room from morning until the next morning, like nothing has changed. So at this point, I really don't know what to do. I gotta be honest, I'm actually really surprised that the original poster is even with this person anymore. This person's made it abundantly clear that they would rather be playing video games than spending time or helping out with their girlfriend. Like, this is just inappropriate. When your gaming hobbies, or any other kind of hobby for that matter, gets in the way of your financial obligations of work, as well as trying to provide for yourself or the person that you love that you live with, then that hobby or activity needs to go, or at least done in moderation. To spend 12 hours a day and sacrifice your job just to play GTA is really an unwise decision, because then your significant other's just going to be left out of your life. And that's exactly what's happening here. This boyfriend needs to get a job and get to work, as well as start helping out around the house. He is neglecting his real life in exchange for a fake life. And if he has any hope of trying to salvage his relationship, then it's probably time to turn off the PC and start listening to his girlfriend, because otherwise she's probably gonna leave. My boyfriend has been draining me emotionally, and I don't know what to do. For the most part, overall, my boyfriend is a good guy. He's loyal, gentle, hardworking, supportive, considerate, and a handyman. 2 of his ex-girlfriends have dumped him and cheated on him. He has a lot of emotional baggage too. We've been dating for about 3 years now. I moved in with him a month ago after doing a long-distance relationship for a while. While doing the long-distance relationship, he would call me 3 times a day, and he would frequently ask me if I loved him. He worries if I am cheating on him all the time. He has my location and my phone password. One time, he went through my iPad to see if I was cheating on him, even though I wasn't. He also has weird comments about what I wear. He says he doesn't like it when I wear crop tops or choker necklaces, because he worries I'll get too much attention from other men. I told him I don't like feeling judged, and I just want to express my style freely. Ever since moving in with him, he comes home frequently in a bad mood. Don't get me wrong, I have bad moods too, but he frequently comes home in a bad mood and just unloads it on me. I've been working part-time and have applied for other jobs since moving in. I clean, I cook, I do laundry, and I take care of the pets while working part-time. He comes home in a bad mood either because of work, his truck that needs some repairs, house repairs, his family, finances, his health, or it's just about something with our pets. Over the weekend, his parents filed for a divorce, and I spent the whole weekend comforting him and emotionally supporting him. Obviously, I feel terrible for him, as well as his family, so the least I could do was just to be there for him. He mostly complains about money. For example, last week he asked me when I would switch to working full-time because he isn't doing well financially due to his expensive medical bills, mortgage, car repairs, and broken AC in the house. I tell him that I understand his frustrations. I offered to find him assistance programs for his Crohn's disease. I offered to help cover some of his bills. Also, I do help pay for the groceries and pet supplies. Today, I came home and he was in a bad mood still because of the pets. The cats had gone to the bathroom on the carpet, as well as on our guest bedroom and in our closet, so he had to rip out the carpet while I cleaned the bed. Then he complained about how expensive the new carpet will be, which then led him to complain about his job, then about his life in general. It's a cycle, it seems like. It left me feeling emotionally drained. I have been comforting him nearly every single day since I've moved in. I'm just dealing with his negativity all of the time. Recently, I've been experiencing depression symptoms. My mom pointed out how it seems like I've been declining mentally. I feel bad for how stressful his life is, and I want to be there for him, but I have a feeling this is how our relationship is always going to be, where I'm constantly comforting him and validating him on a daily basis. He means well, but I fear our relationship will bring me down and make me mentally decline even worse. I even have the urge to break up with him because of his negativity, but I feel like I'm being selfish. What should I do? I think it's time to explain to him that you can't possibly be the only resource that he can have when it comes to working out his feelings. This is obviously draining you of your energy, and you feel like it's tearing you apart limb from limb, and I can completely understand that. It seems like he has a lot of hurdles in his life, and it looks like he's trying to navigate it as best as he can. But he needs to understand that you can't be the only person to bear this burden. For your own mental well-being, you need to explain to him fully and completely that the way he's been treating you is just not fair. He needs to learn how to help himself and get treatment for his mental health issues, because otherwise this is only going to cause more problems in your relationship. And I think you have it right. If this is the way this is going to be, your mental health really will decline, and that's not fair for you. So have this conversation with him and tell him that he needs to figure this out, because otherwise this is just not going to go well. My boyfriend will not only not let me meet his family after 3 years of being together, but when I try to break up with him, he won't let me leave. And now I don't know what to do. My boyfriend and I have been together for 3 years. We broke up a few times during year 2, but we've been together all of the first and third years. Neither of us come from very good families or homes. Despite that, he refused to allow me to meet any of his family. Not his dad, mom, brothers, sister, anyone. He met my parents and siblings after about 2 years one time. Our relationship has been pretty back and forth, and I am the one who did the breaking up each time. So I kept telling myself that he never let me meet them because he was afraid I'd leave him again. The thing is, I've left him each time because he won't let me into his life. I can't meet his family, we never go on dates or do anything together. He doesn't let me hang out with his friends, nothing. I'd beg him to change and he wouldn't, so I would leave even though it was destroying me, because I loved him more than anything. We would both date other people, but always ended up back together. Or he would text me these long messages, basically apologizing or telling me that he's depressed and that I'm the only one that fixes it, explaining that he would do better. And then I would come back. The last time when we broke up, he put on his Tinder bio that he would tell his mom he met the girl of his dreams on Tinder. That felt like a punch to the gut, because I'm still not good enough to meet her. We've been together again for a while, and I don't want to bring up the Tinder thing because I don't want him to get mad at me. The last time I brought up meeting his family a few weeks ago, he put a hole in the wall with a chair because I wouldn't drop, wanting to know why. I'm trying to be understanding, but at the same time, I'm just hurting. My uncle passed away a while ago, and he was a lot like a dad to me. I asked him to come with me to the funeral just because it's so small and not a lot of people are gonna be there, but he refused. He went to a football game with his friends instead and actually Snapchatted me from it. If I try to talk about it or threaten to leave, he then threatens to go to drastic measures or tell me that no one will ever love me like he loves me. Things like that. His friends know we're dating and they already knew me before we started dating, but he won't let me around them either. It feels like he wants me in a cage sometimes and completely separate from everyone else in his life, but he doesn't want me to leave him. I don't think he's seeing anyone else because it took him a long time to even start dating me officially. It was almost half a year before we even called each other boyfriend and girlfriend. I love him so much, and I know I'm not perfect, but I'm at a loss on what I really should do in this situation. This guy sounds really toxic, to be completely honest with you. It also sounds like he has some serious anger management issues. I mean, he put a chair through a wall all because you asked why you couldn't see his family. Like, that's really weird. And you've been together off and on for 3 years. It's crazy to me that you haven't met anyone from his family, or he doesn't bring you around his friends at all. But here's the thing, if you don't feel like this relationship is gonna work out, and in my opinion, I don't see this working out, you can dump him and move on with your life. You don't need his permission or anything like that. You can just leave. And to be honest, from the outside looking checking in, his behavior seems very controlling and manipulative. Someone who actually cares about you wouldn't try to go out of their way just to make you feel bad. So in my opinion, if you really did want to leave him, you totally can do that, because this does not sound like a healthy relationship in the slightest. And it might be in your best interest to move on and find somebody else, regardless of how he feels. My ex is demanding closure from our breakup, but I refused, and now I don't know what to do. I have an ex from a very recent breakup. Before the breakup, I took a week to think about it. We were together for 6 months, and I was unhappy with us half of that time. I tried to fix things and work on communication, but this was exhausting and stressful. I couldn't continue down this path. We got into it a lot and had a lot of arguments. If we made up or tried to let it go, the argument would appear again. So I stopped letting it go and I just held my ground. After much self-reflection and review of records, I saw myself making an effort to improve communication with clearer and more precise statements. But their positions were contradictory. They were moving the goalposts, splitting hairs, and constantly reframing what they were arguing about, even from a frame they introduced in the first place. This became so stressful, and our common ground simply eroded. I spoke with them about this honestly, and said all of the things in this post. While many promises were made, our arrangement became no more coherent, so I ended things. Now, my ex wants closure, and I feel all my reasons are on our records. I spilled everything out from any angle I could. I am just simply tired. Although they would deny it, I feel like the bids for closure are just an attempt to cling to me. They lashed out and presented me a lot of negative speculations as to my motivations for breaking up, and all of these are just untrue. And if I responded point by point, I'd just be defending myself again. I need the pointless arguments to just stop, so I refuse to engage. If they are not attempting to resume troubleshooting and reestablish the relationship, they may be acting on impulse, maybe out of a desire to suck me into all of it once again. I'm giving them simple reasons why I didn't want to keep this relationship going. I even said that I was unhappy in the relationship and that it just wasn't working out. We were not compatible. But this is not the closure, apparently, that they want. They want an explanation that we both could understand and agree to accept. I do not believe this can be accomplished with someone who does not wish to be dumped, and with who I have a history of being unable to establish a coherent disagreement. Any non-reductive complaints I had while we were still together were not understood or addressed meaningfully, and this pain from not being seen is not something I wish to relive as some kind of attempt to provide closure. I also believe my ex does not want to accept the breakup, which would prohibit them from understanding or agreeing to the closure if I tried to build one for them. I am not sure if I'm a believer that closure can be given in a relationship. When I had my heart broken, it took me a lot of time to review the patterns in the old relationships and finally understand why it ended. I have always had to create my own closure, and that's just the way it is. But it begs the question, am I being irresponsible or heartless by refusing to engage with their speculations and demands? What should I do? It sounds like your ex is incredibly toxic, and I don't blame you for cutting them off. And I think you're right. They don't want to go back just for closure. They want to try and come back just so they can get the last word. They don't like how things were broken off, so they want to try and come back into this and start slinging mud once again. They only want to try and hurt you, in my opinion, and that's just not worth your time. You quite literally don't owe them anything. And you know what? It's not in your control how they're going to get closure. If what you've told them isn't enough, and after highlighting all the reasons why you broke this off, then that's their problem to figure this out, not you. So in my opinion, just keep going the course, because either way, they are out of your life, and based on the way they're acting right now, that's probably a really good thing. My husband has anger issues and thinks that I should just accept it, and I really don't know what to do. I recently got married less than a month ago, and I've known my husband for 3 years before marriage. He has ADHD and anxiety, but didn't display anger until a year into our relationship. At its worst, his anger has included shoving me, throwing things at me or around me, breaking things, and punching walls. And one instance, he tried to yank the car keys out of my hands, which resulted in my fingers getting injured. I am getting more and more fed up with his anger. Upon my insistence, he started therapy about a year ago, but I've barely noticed any improvement. He gets angry over the slightest things. Like if I ask him a question in a noisy environment, it will cause him to slam his phone down or throw it, or clench his fist or bite his lip really hard. And then he'll say that he needs some space and he will leave for hours. And this is all over something very trivial and often of no fault of mine. Because of these anger issues, I have grown quite fearful of him and often anticipate his anger. And due to this, I've developed anxiety anxiety, and my depression has worsened. The incident that happened today was that I was talking with him and he must have wanted to say something, and then all of a sudden he slammed the laptop shut, clenched his fists, and bit down on his lip hard. I asked him what was wrong, and he said he forgot what he wanted to say. I became quite depressed because I felt like I shouldn't say anything to him, or I might anger him further, and I felt I was the reason for his anger. I went to my bedroom and he followed me to comfort me. At this point, I explained to him that his anger scared me and made me depressed. The problem I'm having is with his reaction to me saying this. He said he was just feeling frustrated, that his reaction was normal, that it isn't comparable to his usual anger, and that apparently I should be commending him for controlling his anger better than usual. I don't know. It didn't feel too different from him punching walls, to be honest. I just want him to not express his anger like this. Am I in the wrong here? What should I do? You are not in the wrong, and I've got to be honest, his anger is really scary. I mean, sure, today he's throwing stuff at you and breaking things and punching the wall, but tomorrow it could become a lot more violent, if you know what I mean. And I really don't think this is a healthy relationship. Literally nothing about his behavior is in any way, shape, or form normal, and you do not deserve this type of treatment. I mean, he's throwing things at you and he gets aggressive. That's absolutely unacceptable. He got mad at you because he forgot what he was gonna say. He slammed his laptop shut, clenches his fists. I mean, this just seems like really reckless behavior, as well as really abusive. And worst of all, it sounds like he does not want to change, and he's trying to justify his outbursts as him trying to change and be better, when in reality, this is just not the case. I think you really need to consider your safety in a time like this, because this man is definitely not stable, and I would be hard-pressed to think that this won't turn bad very quickly. So in my opinion, it's time to reevaluate your relationship, because I don't see this problem going away overnight, and unless there's some kind of crazy intervention, I just see this going really badly, really fast. My mother-in-law extorted my wife for years by using my wife's younger siblings against her to guilt trip her into doing whatever she said. Here's what happened. So my mother-in-law has 7 children. My wife is the second oldest, and along with her older brother, are children from a previous relationship. Their stepdad is, to put it lightly, a very terrible human being. Nevertheless, he's the father of their 5 youngest half-siblings, and he is also a decently wealthy landowner in their small town on the Mexican side of the US-Mexican border, so there's nothing that they can really do about him. Now, I could write an essay on why this man is so terrible, but I will stick to the main one. This terrible, no-good, poor excuse for a stepfather would constantly harass and hurt my wife in really inappropriate ways ever since they met when she was 4 or 5 years old. Eventually, he took things way too far when she was about 10 years old, and when her mom found out 5 to 6 years later, the lady's bright idea was to simply send her daughter away to live with her grandma in the United States. As a side note, my wife and her brother are Mexican, but they were born in the US. It was while she was living with said grandma that my wife eventually met me at our high school prom, and after about a year, we became a couple. Unfortunately, the grandma is a special kind of social conservative, the hypocritical, manipulative, and controlling kind, but not in a political way. Once the grandma found out, she instantly demanded that my then girlfriend break up with me, saying all kinds of lies about me, like how I was gonna dump her as soon as I've used her, or that I was only with her so she could pay for my college tuition. Instead of giving in to her grandma's demands, she held her ground and told her no, so the grandma kicked her out, and she moved in with my family. While she's been living with me, my mother-in-law continued to have no contact with her, and occasionally asked my wife for money. Now, I should point out that it was often my wife's own initiative to send her mom money to help out her mom and siblings with basic necessities such as food, clothing, and household supplies. The stepdad was notoriously very cheap. All the while, this undeserving man would hold his children as emotional hostages through my mother-in-law just to try and extort emotional concessions out of my wife, such as getting her to tell him happy birthday, to act more as a daughter to him, or to apologize for hurting his feelings on social media. This type of garbage would play out for a few years on end, until eventually my mother-in-law finally found the gall to move out of his house when the stepdad tried replacing her with a younger woman. During this period, my wife would send even more money to her mom so she could afford rent and other living expenses until she could get a job and get on her feet. Unfortunately, this period of independence was rather short, as she returned back into the stepdad's arms for the children's sake, as she put it. And this was all within 2 months' time. Additionally, this woman had decided that the best time to tell her beloved daughter that she cares so much about that she was moving back in with this heinous excuse for a human being was on her birthday of all days. Things got even worse when she announced that they got married shortly afterwards. Naturally, they stopped talking for a while. After making up some time later, my mother-in-law began pushing my wife and brother-in-law to earnestly begin the process of obtaining green cards for herself and their siblings. All three of us largely suspected that the real reason she wanted them was so the stepdad could also get papers and re-enter the US. But we continued with the process anyways, mostly because of the kids. After all, they have no part in whatever beef is going on between us adults, even if some of them are adults now. For context, the stepdad used to live in our city of residence. It's where he met my mother-in-law after all. But he was deported after serving time for a violent squabble involving some pretty violent acts. My mom was also involved in some pretty terrible things while in the US as well, so she had a record from her time in the States. In the 2 years since they've started the paperwork, they were somewhat successful in getting their mom's charges dropped by use of some sort of plea deal, since the case happened so long ago. However, instead of being grateful for all the hard work and money her 2 children have put into this, my mother-in-law became increasingly impatient with how long the process was taking, as if she was owed all of their effort by the very fact that she gave birth to them and raised them. Her impatience continued to escalate, even as my brother-in-law faced increasing difficulty in affording the legal fees. Eventually, a simple clarification question on this one financial matter led my mother-in-law to go into a full pity party meltdown, stating how ungrateful her kids were and that my brother-in-law was starting to act like his stepdad, saying that he's being cheap and hypocritical, as well as other bizarre lies and accusations. Still, even with that outburst, they continued chugging along with the process, all for the sake of their siblings. It wasn't until my brother-in-law fell on harder times did the process stop completely. My mother-in-law continued demanding this one letter from our local police department to continue the process on her own, but my wife and I simply had no inclination to oblige her anymore. Soon enough, my mother-in-law became desperate enough to reach out to her estranged cousin to obtain the all-important letter from us. Now, this was a complete revelation to both of us. We had absolutely no idea that my wife had any other family members living in our city. Up to that point, the only blood family my wife had any sort of contact with was her mom, her venomous grandma, and her also venomous aunt of the same age. My mother-in-law's cousin was nothing like them. She seemed more normal and stable. Eventually, she invited us over to her house, where the larger extended family, my wife's grandma's brother and sister, and some of their children, welcomed us into the family. It was absolutely amazing to see them so eager to have her rejoin their family. They would trade some stories as well as jokes that she hadn't heard ever since she first left the United States. I am quite hopeful that she can finally have the family she's always wanted that's actually related to her. Anyway, my mother-in-law's cousin suggested we hand over the letter to her on the condition that my mother-in-law does not ask anything of us ever again. So far, my mother-in-law hasn't contacted us ever since, not even for my wife's latest birthday, which is probably a good thing. The cousin and family had been encouraging my wife to get in contact with her real dad, who also happens to live in our city with another family of his own, all so she can get a hold of the real story behind what happened between him and my mother-in-law's breakup. They believe that there's likely more to the story than what my wife had been told about her dad, and given the enormous amount of lies and deceit that often spews out of my wife's grandma, I am completely unsurprised that this could possibly be the case. However, my wife is in absolutely no hurry to get in contact with her dad, but she has reached out, just waiting on a reply. After all, the man had never reached out to her, and now he was another family with a different woman. So hopefully everything works out for me and my wife, and she's able to find some kind of closure for her family. It's crazy how toxic this mother-in-law was acting towards her daughter as well as her family, literally hanging her siblings over her head just so this mother-in-law and her crazy abusive stepfather could get back in this country. And honestly, I don't blame them for cutting them off. So hopefully this mother-in-law never contacts her again, because she's incredibly toxic and they do not need this kind of energy in their life. I just found out that I'm ruining another relationship as I discovered that I'm the other woman. I have known this guy since high school. He was a few years older than me, but we were in activities together, so we became friends. We stayed friends the past few years, and even kind of became friends with benefits at one point. I would back off the times that I knew he was in a relationship, but every time they would fall out, we would reconnect. Over the past 6 months or so, we have gotten a lot closer. We talk and call every single day. We're always incredibly flirty with each other, and we have very deep and very real conversations conversations about the future and what we want. We haven't hung out more than a handful of times, which I thought was odd, but honestly, I understood we were both busy and thought we were taking it slow. About a month ago, I found out that he has been in a relationship for almost 2 years. They apparently live together, they share the lease, and have shared funds. He finally told me now because he says he wants to leave her for me. What do I do from here? The past month since I found out, I've honestly acted like it was a dream and continued to talk to him, but it's really hitting me now. I don't want to ruin their relationship, and I don't want to be the reason he has to uproot his life. I honestly don't even know if I could fully commit knowing the circumstances it came from. I told him exactly how I feel, but he said he still plans to leave because all he does is think about me every time he looks at her, and that it doesn't feel healthy to keep going on like that. That honestly makes me feel awful. I couldn't imagine being in her shoes. He says I shouldn't feel guilty because he was the one who didn't tell me about this relationship, and it's not my fault that he ended up falling for me. And now I'm stuck at a crossroads because I really don't know what to do. I really like this guy, and he says that he really is into me, but how do I not feel bad for his girlfriend? How do I overlook something like that? Do I tell her what's going on? I mean, I don't think it's my place to do it at this point, but I'm at a loss. What should I do? If this guy can cheat on his girlfriend with you, then you can bet that he can absolutely do the same to you. This is really disgusting behavior, and if I were you, I would not go with this guy. There's no way I would want someone like that in my life. Can you imagine being the other girl right now, where she has been led on for 2 years, only to suddenly be cheated on by you? She shared a lease with this guy, she lived with this guy, like this was not some casual situation, and yet he still cheated on her with you. If I was in your shoes, no matter how I feel about this guy, it would be time to cut him loose. I would not want to be with someone like that who knowingly would cheat on their significant other, because you can bet if he can do this with this lady, then he could absolutely flip the script and do this to you as well. My boyfriend is driving me nuts over my pregnancy, and I don't know what to do about this. My boyfriend and I found out that my birth control failed, and due to some medical complications, the steps we took to prevent me from getting pregnant failed completely. I told him immediately after finding out, and we've chosen to keep the pregnancy. We are both older and financially stable. However, it will be high risk because of the possibility of a premature birth. Since I told him of my pregnancy, he has been very weird. He is constantly calling to check in. He has been wanting to only eat healthy foods. I am a pretty healthy eater, but I don't see the harm in having a slice of pizza or some fries every now and then. Basically, if the food isn't crazy nutritional, he gets upset because apparently to him, I shouldn't eat junk food since I'm carrying our child. He has been to every appointment, and I'm pretty sure he bought all of the parenting books he could find. He will clearly be a very good father. He is normally a fantastic partner as well. I've never had any problem with him before. He treats me like a princess. When he found out I am high risk, he went even more nuts, not wanting me to do anything at all that could potentially make it any riskier. He literally weighed my handbag because he thought it was too heavy for me to be lifting it. I work from home with the occasional in-office meeting, and he absolutely does not want me to go because I could catch COVID. As a side note, I am up to date on my vaccinations, but I get the fear there. He had COVID last year and it was pretty bad. He also does not want me to leave the apartment without a mask. He has banned me from the stairs because I could fall and has banned me from wearing heels anymore, also due to the possible risk of tripping and falling. This makes sense, but the stairs are so much faster. However, I feel obliged with this because it makes him feel better. We both live in apartments, and our apartments are in the same building. His apartment is bigger, so he wants us to consolidate into his apartment. We had already talked about moving in together before this, but now I really feel like I need some space to tolerate this. I know our child is just as much his as mine, and we are already 20 weeks in, so about halfway there. I should probably just suck it up and try to put him at ease with all of this, but I've never been one to really let anyone control any aspect of my life, so I am a bit irrationally angry about how he is acting. I know he is just trying to make sure the pregnancy is as healthy as possible, and he is afraid because of the risk. I've told him his behavior is upsetting me, and he has sworn up and down the day I'm released from the hospital, he would buy me all the junk food, and I can do whatever I want. He seems genuinely concerned about my health and the pregnancy so far. However, this behavior is still driving me nuts. Am I being irrational right now? What should I do? I think you said it best. If this really is bothering you that much, and the way he's kind of hyper vigilant on what you're doing and eating and how you're walking and all this stuff, then I think you really should push back at this moment and say, hey, you gotta pump the brakes. You know your body, you know how it works, you know you can take the stairs, And I'm sure he means well, but it's kind of becoming obnoxious based on what you're describing. Even though he means well, if it's bothering you, then you need to say something. He needs to understand that there needs to be some kind of compromise. And when he's being completely controlling of the situation and not allowing you to do literally anything, it makes you feel very angry and very frustrated because you said it yourself. You don't like other people kind of controlling what you can and can't do. And it sounds like this guy's a really good guy. So I think if you just explain that to him and say, wait, no, really, I want to be able to do whatever I want to do, I think he might be able to come to some kind of compromise between the two of you where he can still be attentive, but not be obnoxiously attentive. After a year of jealousy, controlling issues, and anger mixed with drinking problems and red flags, I officially feel trapped in my relationship, and I genuinely don't know how to get out of it. Let me preface by saying I did not want to make this post, but as a 28-year-old male with parents and friends who have an emotional intelligence of children and avoid tough conversations like the plague, I really don't have anyone to go to for advice. I am hoping someone can talk some sense into me. I love my girlfriend, who's 23 years old, but I believe I may have ignored too many red flags when I first met her a year ago. When I first met her, she had problems with drinking and stuff going up her nose, if you know what I mean. And while I was recovering from severe depression and had just lost a good amount of weight trying to get my life back together after recovering from a previous heartbreaking breakup 2 years before, we ended up falling for each other hard. My girlfriend has always been very nurturing and there for me 100%, but she can get very scary when she drinks, or if any other female is in proximity of me. She becomes a whole other person, and maybe that's because she feels attached to me in some kind of way, because I got her out of doing illegal substances, and I feel like I got her on a good path. Her mom thanks me all the time for being a better influence in her life, and what I mean by she becomes a whole different person is that she will start to get very mean and very nasty to me after drinking, and she will make up lies, get very abusive, and sometimes hits me repeatedly. She will cause a public scene, and cops have gotten involved in the past. Later on, she will only apologize to me for the outburst when she is sober. I have forgiven her many times for these outbursts, but I don't think I'll ever forgive her for hitting me. I am a lot bigger than her. I'm 6'1" and I weigh 205 pounds, while she is 5'1" and 125 pounds. So she's not doing a lot of physical damage, but I think I feel more attacked emotionally when she does this. The other issue is the jealousy and the controlling nature. Whenever a female looks my way or talks to me in any type of matter, she loses it in seconds and makes me feel horrible. I cannot coexist with women in the world. I have never cheated or given her any reason to be this way with me. The other night, we were hanging out with her roommate that I also live with. We were at the pool drinking and she saw her roommate talking to me and looking at me. My girlfriend had an outburst and ended up saying a bunch of nasty things to me and called her family to come over, basically causing a big scene about it. I ended up Ubering my parents to get away from her and to give her time to sober up. My mom and sister were aware of what happened and apologized to me, but I didn't forgive her because I had to wake my parents up at 2 a.m. just to have a place to crash, and it was embarrassing. This has all been a constant theme that happens every few months. As another note, I've poured so much into this relationship and I really do care about her. We even have a successful business that we started that is our only source of income. I find myself losing interest in her and thinking about what it would be like to be with another woman, and this happens more and more after every outbreak and controlling issue that happens. I'm sorry if that sounds horrible, but it's the truth. She brings on a lot of stress in my life, but at the same time, I feel I can't escape her because she won't let me break up with her and will follow me and not give me space. I'm really not sure what to do in this situation. I feel like the writing's on the wall for this one. The fact that she's hitting you and freaking out over every small thing, in my opinion, is more than enough reason to leave her. And you know what? If she does try to follow you, that's when you get the police involved. Legitimately, the behavior you're describing is really problematic, and you should not accept that. It's not okay for her to freak out like that and to still have these types of violent, angry outbursts. So I would take a good hard look at this relationship, because from what you've described, this does not seem healthy or safe. I do not want my brother and my fiance's sister to be in my wedding. However, my in-laws are threatening to cancel the wedding if they are not invited, and at this point, I don't know what to do. This all sounds like a really badly planned drama. However, I am really unsure what to do at this point. My brother Harry introduced me to my fiance Derek when I was 21, and we have been inseparable since. It was weird, as I was not close to my brother due to being the affair baby. Our dad cheated on Harry's mother with mine. I also have two best friends, Nikki and Jess, who I've known since I was 5. Just before COVID hit, I found out that Harry was dating both of them, and so I exposed him. When I asked why he did that, he said he wanted to hurt me for what my mother did to his parents. My mother didn't know my dad was married or in a relationship, and he expected Derek to dump me after sleeping with me, and he's upset it didn't happen. My boyfriend also proposed to me around that time, and we are having our wedding next month. When I told him what my brother did, Derek immediately cut contact with Harry. Now, my in-laws are paying for the entire wedding because they are excited to see their son getting married. Because of this, they also invited a lot of family from his side, as well as business partners, and of course, I've invited my mom and my best friends to be my bridesmaids. My in-laws also said they want to cover the expense without us paying back, as long as we allow them to invite people. Otherwise, we will have to pay them back. However, when reading through the invitations, I have noticed that my brother's name is on them, and after doing some digging, I found out he has proposed to my fiance's sister, and she is pregnant with their child. According to my in-laws, they have been together for 4 years, all while one of them was in a long-distance relationship, meaning Harry also cheated on her with my friends. Because of this, my brother's mother is also going to be in the wedding alongside with my dad, as they were invited by my in-laws. I have told my in-laws that I don't want to see my brother or my fiance's sister in my wedding, but my in-laws are now insisting on canceling it and not paying for anything, meaning that we will have to change the venue on a very short notice or postpone it and potentially pay them the deposits back. That is if we don't invite them. I also do not want to see my brother's mother there, as she is just an awful person. However, we are not sure what to do here or what could be done. We cannot afford paying the deposits back due to the amount of people invited by my in-laws that they have booked at the venue. Plus, the venue is very large and very expensive, but having my brother, his mother, and my fiance's sister there will just be a lot of drama, and the wedding will be ruined. Both myself and Derek have tried to tell my in-laws what Harry did, however, they won't believe it. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. I'm not gonna lie, your extended family sounds incredibly toxic, and I'm talking about the in-laws who are being absolutely unreasonable. They're basically saying, hey, we'll pay for your wedding if we can then run your wedding, and that's absolutely not fair. I think you need to draw a line in the sand and say this is how it's going to be, or you can just not pay for it and we'll figure something else out. They are basically holding you hostage with their money, and that's not fair. Like, it seems like they're trying to set up this weird drama situation at the expense of your wedding, and that's not fair at all. But from what you've described, this literally sounds like a nightmare. And regardless of what you choose to do, I hope it works out, and hopefully your in-laws come around and see where you're coming from. An entitled Karen tries to accuse my nephew of trying to steal my own car in my driveway, and I honestly could not be more upset. Here's what happened. First, a little bit of context beforehand. My sister has an adopted son by the name of Jason. He's one of the nicest kids I've ever met, and I am proud to call myself his uncle. While my sister and I are mixed, my dad being white, my nephew is dark-skinned and looks nothing like us, and sadly enough, this will be important later. Now, to mention my car, I own a 2020 Mazda MX-5 Miata. I managed to buy a brand new one thanks to being financially well off at the time. So this story takes place last summer. Jason was younger when this took place. My sister came to visit and brought Jason with her. At the time, Jason was outside on the porch talking to his friends and asked if it was cool if he could check out my car. I had no objection since I knew he'd be responsible and I could obviously trust him around it. Now, I wasn't here for this part since I was inside the house at the time, but my nephew tells me while he was checking it out, this kid comes around and starts gawking at the car. He goes up to Jason and asked him about the car, but Jason doesn't know anything about cars, so he said that he didn't really know anything about it and told him to come back later when I was outside and maybe I could tell him about the car. The kid says okay and just runs off. This is where I come into the story, since I heard what sounded like frantic pounding on my door. I opened it up and there stands the entitled Karen and her kid. She looks at me and says, "Sir, is this your car in the driveway?" I responded that yes, it is. She then says, "Well, I caught this young man trying to steal it." And after she says this, she points right at Jason. And at this point, I started to realize what was happening. I looked at her and said, "Oh, no, ma'am, I think you're misunderstanding. That's my nephew. He was just looking at my car." This Karen says in a slightly shocked but condescending tone, "This is your nephew?" I tell her that it is. And right around when she said this, my sister heard all the commotion and came up to see what was happening. My sister asked this lady, "What's going on here?" The entitled Karen then tried to imply that I was my sister's husband, but my sister kindly corrected her and said, "No, this is my little brother." She looked over her shoulder and saw Jason looking at the ground. She then asked this entitled Karen, "Did my son do something to upset you?" And at this point, I could practically see the Karen's eyeballs bulge out of her head. This Karen said, "He's your son? That is impossible. You two look nothing alike." My sister then said, "Well, my son is adopted." It's also good to note that my sister is not ashamed to admit that my nephew is adopted, and Jason is well aware that he is, but he simply doesn't care. They are all still family. This Karen then says something that absolutely blew my mind. She said, "Well, this one must have come from a family of thugs. I swear, they all have something wrong with them. He's setting a bad example for my son." As a side note, this entitled Karen's kid had no clue what was happening, and this is where my sister got incredibly angry. She then asked what she meant by that, and at this point, the entitled Karen doubled down, looked at Jason, and said that he is a thug, stating that it's not her fault that they gave my sister a mistake of a child. And at this point, my sister and I were incredibly angry at this lady and began to berate her on how just because he's darker than us doesn't mean that he's not family, and about how she's a prime example of why people of color still have to watch their back, since apparently we can't do certain things because of how we look. The entitled Karen then began screaming back at us, threatening to call the cops since we were all nothing but a bunch of thugs apparently. And after she said that, I recommended that we not do that since I had a Ring doorbell, and I assured her the police would love to see this footage. After she found out that I had a Ring doorbell that was recording all of this, she ran off with her kid in tow. And honestly, I hope that entitled Karen never comes back. This entitled Karen is actually a giant piece of garbage. There's no question about it. Sometimes there might be some ambiguity there, but this lady fits the bill completely. You have to be a sick and twisted person to actually try and pull something like this on someone else's property. I mean, these types of comments are so unbelievably toxic and very, very uncalled for, and they are not based in any objective reality in the slightest. This lady was just straight up racist. There's no other way to put it. And people who act like that just make me sick, and they should be ashamed of themselves. The original poster said that they are going to contact the police and use the Ring footage as evidence. And I really hope something comes out of this, because the way this entitled Karen was acting is completely inappropriate, and no one should ever have to put up with that. I'm quitting my job, and I'm sad because I was friends with my boss, and now I simply don't know what to do. I put in my 2 weeks notice at work yesterday. This feels super dorky to write about, but I don't know who to talk to about this in real life without seeming dumb. About 5 years ago, I got a job as an assistant in the field I'm going to school for at a small family business. I was an assistant to one man, and we grew very close. Over time, my skills progressed, and I went to graduate school for the field I'm in. We had discussed it, and I'd be leaving the job to go to school. We both were bummed about it, as by that point, we'd grown to be good friends. He was almost like a second dad at that point, although at times, I have suspected he harbors less than professional feelings towards me. The plan, tentatively, was that I'd come back and work there after school. My boss called me about a month into school and asked me to come back part-time. I needed the extra cash and enjoyed working with him. Things kept on with me part-time for 2 years. In that time, we grew even closer. I feel super goofy to write this out about my boss, but between spending so much time together and having so much in common, he grew to be one of my closest friends, and he felt the same way towards me. Now, not all was rosy. My boss was a hard man to please. He was intensely particular about the way things were done, and sometimes his particularity seemed to follow no particular pattern. He grew frustrated with me, which I understand to an extent, but I was doing my best with what I had, and he had somewhat unreasonable expectations for me. I was expected to function on a level far beyond my training and experience, and when I fell short of that, my boss would get frustrated. He'd insult my intelligence and sometimes just be straight up mean. Over the past few months, the situation was deteriorating. He's grown mean and rude, and I'm not the only person to notice. He told me last month that he had changed his mind about hiring me as a professional after graduation, telling me that he wasn't sure I was cut out for the job, despite the fact that my coworkers, professors, and mentors disagree. He even cussed me out earlier this week. Yesterday, after getting belittled again, I decided I had had enough and put in my notice. It was so strange. When I met with him, I gave him my resignation letter and he didn't react at all, just told me to put it on his desk and didn't even look at me. He then acted like nothing happened for the rest of the day. Frankly, he's in trouble without me, but I'm also scared I'm gonna go to work Monday and get yelled at. I know it's for the best, but I cannot help but mourn the loss of one of the most peculiar but fulfilling friendships I've ever had. What should I do? It sounds like your boss's true colors were slowly coming out. The honeymoon period of someone being your friend as well as your boss is definitely over, and what you were seeing is, in my opinion, exactly how your boss actually is. And frankly, based on his reaction, this is probably not the first time this has happened. You are probably one of many people that he has done this to, which is why he didn't react at all, because he probably knew this was coming. It is not okay in a professional setting for someone to talk down to you like that and for you to have to sit there and take it. So I don't blame you for a second for putting in your 2 weeks notice and saying enough is enough, because I would have done the same thing if I was in your shoes. And you know what? If anything, you can at least use that place as a good point of reference where you can show people in the future that yes, I did work in this field before I graduated. That way you can at least advance your career. And if I was in your shoes, I really wouldn't waste my time trying to get any kind of reference from him. I would personally just look to like a coworker or someone like that and see if they could give me a reference instead of him, because chances are he probably wouldn't give a good one since you're quitting. But hopefully you're able to move past this, because I think you're going to find better friends and bosses who won't change their attitude all of a sudden overnight and chew you out at the drop of a hat. That's not normal and you do not deserve that treatment. My boyfriend proposed to me in the worst way possible. My boyfriend of 2 years really wants to get married. He has told me many times that I am the love of his life and that he wants to spend the rest of his life with me. He wants to marry me as soon as possible too. I want to spend the rest of my life with him, but I'm too young to be married right now. I've told him this many times. We agreed to get married in 2025 because of it, but my boyfriend still wants to propose right away. I've known he was gonna propose, and we have already picked out an engagement ring together. He's asked me how I wanted to be proposed to, and I told him in a romantic way, with just the two of us. I don't want to be proposed to in public, or just out of the blue at home while I'm studying or doing something like that. I know it's selfish to say, but I want my heart to pound with love during that moment. Well, since then, it seems like my boyfriend has ignored everything I said and wanted. He's asked me to marry him 5 times out of the blue at home, all while I'm doing chores or something like that. He doesn't go down on one knee or give me the ring. He just says suddenly, "Hey, wanna get married?" I've always said over and over again, I'm too young to be married right now. But if we got engaged, that would be good, but only if you ask me in a romantic way. And this is where the title to this story comes in. Yesterday, me and my boyfriend went to a Ren fair with our closest friends. And earlier that week, I had a gut feeling that he was gonna try and propose again. So earlier that week, I specifically told him over the phone, I don't want you to propose at the Ren fair. Please don't do this. That isn't how I want it to go down. I hate being the center of attention. Well, as you could guess it, as we were regrouping and getting ready to leave, my boyfriend comes up to me and pulls out the ring and gets down on one knee. And he then asks me, in public surrounded by people, if I want to get married. I freak out and say I'm too young and try to walk away, but my boyfriend would not take no for an answer. And he said back to me that we can still just be engaged. So I said fine, and he puts the ring on my finger. Then all the people around us started clapping, and I just wanted to disappear. And I still want to after thinking about this and replaying it in my head. Right away, I told him that this isn't how I wanted it to go down, and I told him to please try again, because I hate public proposals. Well, because of that, he took the ring back, and he's been spiraling emotionally ever since. He is devastated and mad that I rejected him, and I honestly don't know what to do next. He hasn't talked to me since the Ren fair, even though I have tried to talk to him about it, saying that I still love him and that he's not the problem, but every attempt to talk to him has just been ignored. What should I do next? I really don't know how to bring him out of this rut. Are my requests too much? What should I do? I don't think your requests are too much. You obviously want to try and get married to this guy, but you want him to do it in the way that you want it to happen. You specifically told him multiple times, I don't want a public proposal. I want this to be private, intimate, romantic. I want it to be just us. But he specifically did not listen. He took what you were saying and threw it out the window, which is completely unfair for you. And I think, if anything, this guy has revealed a very important part of himself. Not only can he not take no for an answer, but he also is absolutely going to ignore your wishes, despite the fact that you told him multiple times that you did not want something. I mean, based on the way you're describing it, I don't think you could have made it any more clear that you don't want a public engagement. It's weird for you, it's embarrassing, and you don't like it. So I would not feel bad about rejecting him and saying, hey, you want to try this again? Because this this isn't what you wanted. And that's a big red flag in my opinion. So I would take a good hard look at this relationship in my opinion, because based on the way he's acting, this does not look promising. My boyfriend overslept and missed a planned date again. This is the third time, and now I'm not sure what to do. My boyfriend of 8 months has a history of oversleeping. The first 2 times he overslept and missed 2 dates. The first was just with me, that we had planned 2 weeks in advance. And the second was a family hangout to meet my mom. Those 2 he was unemployed and was choosing to stay up all night, knowing that we have plans the next day. Each time it hurt, but each time I forgave him. We planned for him to come visit my house today. He is now working a night shift, and I made sure it was during his off day, not the day directly after his last day of work. That means that he's had a whole 24 hours beforehand to prepare himself for traveling to my house the next day. We live about 2 hours apart. My mom was looking forward to meeting him finally, and so is my grandma. She has Alzheimer's and probably has only 1 year left to live. She has met him once and likes him a lot. She was so excited to see him. He promised to sleep early. He promised to set alarms. But already going into this, I was scared. I was psyching myself for the possibility that he wouldn't visit. I wake up this morning from a text at 7 in the morning saying he's only going to bed now. He said he's going to take a nap and try and wake up by 10:30. I already had a bad feeling, but said I would try to call him to wake him up. 10:30 passes by and nothing. I ended up calling him 15 times within the space of 2 hours, hoping even just one call would wake him up. My dad then starts asking where he is. And at this point, I have to be honest, and I tell him that he's still at home. My dad shakes his head as he's just simply disappointed. My mom says it's fine, but I can tell she's also disappointed. She had cooked an extra special lunch for him. I had bought food from a trip just to give to him. It was 12, and he could only stay at our place until 5 p.m. to travel back. And now there's no chance he would have any time to come and visit. The hardest part about all of this was telling my grandma. She was looking for him the moment she saw him. So I had to tell her, while trying also not to cry, that he wasn't coming. The smile on her already aged, gaunt face faded. She looked so confused. She asked me again where he was, so I had to tell her again that he wasn't coming. She looked at my mom, and my mom repeated it again. It felt like a knife in my heart to see my grandma look so confused. Hours later, he messaged me saying sorry that he couldn't make it. I tell him honestly, but in a respectful way, that this is very upsetting to me. I told him that I felt that my family was disappointed, and I was feeling the same way. But his response was that he should be getting some leeway, because if he had gone today, that would mean that he would have a hard time sleeping for work. And I feel like it was just not the right response. It felt like he was more concerned about how it would affect him more than how it affected me. I do understand where he's coming from, but it still stings. At first I could accept it, but now I'm just crying, and I just feel like I can't look at him the same way. It's like a broken promise, and my family means so much to me. My parents have never liked someone I've dated as much as they liked him. I'm scared this will affect the way that they see him. I feel so bad for my dad, as well as my mom and my grandma. I also feel so bad for me, and I also know it's hard on him too. I know the night shift isn't easy, but he promised, and this isn't the first time. How do I even proceed from here? I love him, but I can't handle another time when he doesn't show up. From now on, I don't know that I can ever trust that he'd come on time for anything. What should I do? It really does not seem like your boyfriend cares about you or your family. He had plenty of time to go to bed at a reasonable hour, but instead stayed up all night and only went to bed at 7? That's just unacceptable. If you have plans, you have to honor those plans, especially if you agree to them beforehand. This isn't a surprise. This isn't spur of the moment. You plan this in advance. And right now, he's not coming off as a good boyfriend, to be honest. This is unacceptable behavior. He should have been there on time. He had plenty of time to get sleep and be ready to be there. So in all actuality, it does not seem like he made you or your family his priority. And that's a massive red flag, especially since he keeps doing this. So I would take a good hard look at this relationship and see if this is even something you want to entertain, because his negligence is only going to cause more friction later on. My husband always compares me to his friend's wife and calls her the ideal wife. And at this point, I don't know what to do. My husband and I just celebrated our 8th anniversary, but we have been together since we were both juniors in college. We also have a 4-year-old daughter together. After we graduated college, we moved to San Francisco because he was a computer science major and wanted to work in big tech, while I was an anthropology and English graduate and did teach for America. While I understand that my job isn't as lucrative as his, all those years we lived together before marriage, I always prided myself on paying all my personal expenses out of my own account account and taking care of all the household logistics to make up for only paying 1/4 of the rent of our apartment. However, the man my husband was back then was supportive about my goals and didn't ever make me feel like we had to keep score about who contributed what or who was entitled to what as a result. I have great admiration for my husband and recognize that he is an extremely talented software engineer who came up from nothing. However, the way he has been acting recently has definitely made me question if this is still the same man that I married. My husband was working for a very large corporation and getting good raises, but a friend of his asked him to become a technical founder for a business idea, and at the time I encouraged him. We moved to a pretty cramped apartment, went through our savings, and I defended him when people would say that all they really have is an idea. My husband and his partner were rejected by dozens upon dozens of investors. They had to let employees go because they couldn't afford salaries, and dealt with the fact that every business hopeful in town was basically willing to betray them to get ahead. At one point, his co-founder moved into our apartment because his wife was divorcing him, saying she was sick of him never having time for her. Finally, the business started taking off, and we had to put off marriage and kids because he said he wanted to be able to support a family. After that, he proposed, and I was happy to sign a prenup, especially since I assumed I would continue to work. Right before the birth of our daughter, however, his company decided to move their main headquarters to Tennessee, all of this being for business reasons. And so we moved out there. Right after the move, I gave birth, and that is when things really started to change. He was big in entrepreneurial circles there and took up horseback riding and golfing. Through that, he started meeting new friends who were successful men in their late 30s. They were outwardly conservative, but also lived the fast life. I do not like a lot of them because they would say really rude things about women sometimes, and generally were pretty dismissive of others' feelings when push comes to shove. Around that time, his co-founder, and probably the friend he spends the most time with, before and now, decided he was sick of having short-term relationships and decided to get married this year. His wife is 23 years old and he is 41, and 1 month after having their son, she was back in a bikini looking better than she did pre-baby. Let's just call her Anna. That's not her real name. Anna stopped working when she began dating his friend and basically posts about how much she admires her husband every day. She also fights a lot of his battles for him, basically arguing with others on his behalf when her husband feels slighted, and will blast these arguments onto social media. Whenever we socialize with them, I always catch him looking at them with a wistful look in his eyes, before looking at me with a lot of scorn and resentment. He has been coming home late for the past year, and these late night disappearing acts have only increased. He will stink of booze when he finally lays down next to me. His comparisons of me and his friend's wife have now started in earnest. He will criticize my career, saying that being basically a librarian is boring, and that I don't earn enough money. Plus, he asks why I cannot be like his friend's wife Anna, who just does secretarial work for free for her husband, and devotes her time to figuring out how he can make more money from his investments and such. He calls it my annoying work mom routine, even though I'm the one who does all the childcare and housework. He will complain that I cannot just drop everything at work to go on an impromptu 2-hour workout with him, because he usually can leave work whenever he wants. And whenever his friend wants to do something spontaneous, his wife Anna will drop everything to go with him. He has gone from an average build to working out all the time and decided to get Botox and veneers that he didn't need. He encouraged me to get filters and Botox to stop my eyebrows from raising, saying that even if I get too much, it is better than wrinkles and will wear off eventually. He got mad at me when I said I didn't want that, saying Anna knows a good doctor, works out every day, and got a tummy tuck. Whenever we fight, he goes straight for the jugular and will point out that his single friends are having a better life than he does. He tried to hold our prenup over my head, saying that we weren't at the 10-year mark, so I'd barely get anything. He calls Anna the ideal wife and wants to hire a nanny and a maid so I could be as energetic as her. All throughout this, he claimed to be a completely faithful husband, which I doubted. I read every midlife crisis book available because I tried everything. I planned date nights, I went on 5 a.m. workouts with him, I used up all my vacation time to be there for him. But my efforts were reciprocated with criticism. He would say I could not keep up with him, that I looked tired all the time, and all these other terrible things. Finally, I followed him and I caught him going to a scandalous club, if you know what I mean. His only explanation was that Anna lets her husband go to these types of clubs and does all other sorts of scandalous things with him, and he then tried to turn this conversation into convincing me that cheating was okay and that I should participate when he wants it. I am so disgusted with him, and and I consulted with a divorce lawyer. She looked over our prenup and says that in her experience, spouses sometimes use the 10-year clause to justify them nitpicking everything, basically making it so they can always ask the question of what have you done for me recently type of thing, and that it will probably get worse since we are approaching 10 years, and he may be thinking about whether or not to divorce me. She predicted that he would be a high conflict ex, but asked me if I thought he would try to divorce me before the 10 years are up. I honestly do not know, and I'm really afraid of what this would do to our daughter. I keep hoping this is a midlife crisis, and that he will apologize for it and just forget about it, but I am so miserable right now. We had such an ideal marriage, but now it's just falling apart. What should I do? This is a terrible situation for you and your daughter. You have a husband that has basically fallen off the deep end and decided to throw caution to the wind and basically ruin his marriage. I mean, what kind of husband would go to these scandalous clubs and then try and encourage his wife to start cheating, as well as basically saying, hey, you're not good enough? Like, this man is definitely a terrible person. I think talking to an attorney, as well as building up your assets that he can't get to, would be really important. But hopefully everything can work out for you, because nobody should be married to someone who makes them feel this way. An entitled Karen lets her kid play in my car while it's unlocked, and after I tell them to get lost and get off my property, I discovered that this kid had pooped all over my car. Here's what happened. For context, I'm a classic car nut. I live in England, and I own an old Cadillac. I don't really get a chance to go to car shows due to working at night. COVID has also made things difficult, and sometimes I just don't have the money for fuel. So when I get a chance, I make a day out of it. In 2013, I went to a local car show on the beachfront in the next town over. The show mainly had American cars and rat rods, around 30 to 40 cars in total, so it was a good-sized meetup. I had only heard about it that morning, and so I went on my own. My nephews would usually come along, but this time it was just me. I found a spot and parked my caddy. It was a lovely sunny day. There was an ice cream stand, as well as a fish and chip shop nearby. What more could you possibly want? After about an hour of chatting to people and answering their questions, since my caddy is a pretty rare car in the United Kingdom, I went to see the other cars for myself. The cars were parked end to end with good space in between, so there was a good line of cars all around. There was a wide variety of cars, from pristine cars to quarter-mile specials, to some that were heavily chopped up, ranging from the 1930s to the 1990s. And as fate would have it, guess which idiot in this entire line forgot to lock up his car? When I came back after viewing all these beautiful cars, I saw a kid in the driver's seat who had to be about 4 or 5 years old, yanking at the steering wheel and pressing all the buttons. All the while, his entitled Karen of a mother was just sitting there taking pictures. Here's the thing. The first rule of a car show is you don't just get into other people's cars. You most definitely ask first. I walk up to them and I say, "What are you doing?" The entitled Karen said, "My son just wanted to sit in the car." I then asked her, who said that he could? And after I said this, the entitled Karen looked at me and said, "Me, I did." I then explained to her that this is my car. I then said, "Why didn't you ask before you let your kid in my car?" The entitled Karen said, "Because it was unlocked and no one would let him sit in their cars." And it was at this point that I realized that this entitled Karen went around this lot checking for unlocked or unattended cars just so her stupid kid could try and sit in it. At this point, I was super upset that this kid was using the inside of my car as his jungle gym. I then said, "Get him out of my car now." After I said that, she didn't say another word. She got her son out and she left. When they started walking away though, I saw why he wasn't allowed into other people's cars. There's no other way to really say this other than to just say it. This kid pooped his pants. The back of his underwear had a very distinctive stain. Not only was it on the seat, it was on the steering wheel, the door, the dashboard, the radio, and on every single switch that this stupid kid was touching. Thankfully, there was a shop nearby, so I went and I got some baby wipes and some disinfectant spray. I tried to go looking for them to make this entitled Karen answer for what her kid did to my car, but unfortunately, I could not find them. The venue was very busy and there were a lot of people. Unfortunately, the smell stayed for weeks and I had to replace the seats altogether. I was planning on doing this anyways, but this pushed the need forward. But hopefully the next time I go to one of these shows, I'll remember to lock the door so this doesn't happen again. I can't imagine that happening to a car like that. That must have been horrendous. Here you are just trying to enjoy a night out with an old Cadillac, showing it off for people walking by, and this entitled Karen just lets her kid go wild in your car. Quite literally at that. Absolutely disrespectful and so so inappropriate. Why on earth would anybody think it's okay to let their stupid kid bounce around in somebody else's car? Like, this is not a prop. That belongs to somebody. Overall, this is a really terrible situation to be stuck in, and hopefully this doesn't ruin his enthusiasm for going to car shows and just trying to enjoy himself. After 10 years of being a waiter, I have officially finally quit. I started as a waiter when I was 16, and now I'm 26 years old, and I'm just so done with this. I started to look for other jobs, expecting to take a massive monetary hit. I earn about $10 an hour plus tips. As a side note, I live in Germany, so our wage system is a little bit different than America. So in total, it's about $16 an hour. That's pretty good, especially for a 16-year-old. When people ask me, you worked there for 10 years, what made you quit? I have a hard time explaining, actually. The pay is alright, but literally every other aspect of it is just grinding me down. I have no vacation days. I have no sick days. If I'm sick or if I take a vacation, it's like I'm out of a job for that while. Therefore, in the last 10 years, I missed exactly 5 days of work because of Corona and never taking a vacation. The job also feels like there is so much on the line. I don't even know why. It feels like it's so important that everything works perfectly. A few weeks ago, the person who is doing the dishes discovered that it is not actually his job to dry the cutlery. So now, he demands $5 per night from the waiters just to do it. He knows we simply don't have the time to do it ourselves. So now, because of this, I'm having to pay people. Like, what on earth is going on? This guy is always under the influence at work, or he just straight up shows up late. But the kicker is, seemingly nobody in all of Germany is willing to do the job, so my boss can't replace him. With all that in mind, I went grocery shopping, and there I heard through the intercom that they are hiring and paying $15 an hour. And I was absolutely floored. The same day I applied, I got hired. I get vacation days now. I get sick leave. I can shop with a discount. The store is within walking distance. The perks of working here go on and on. On one hand, I'm very sad to leave the industry, as well as my working mates. But every time I actually think about the new job, I just get excited. I will, however, miss the stories that this industry generates. I just feel so happy to finally be moving forward with my life. This is a crazy story for a few reasons. For one, I'm super happy you got out of your waiting position. That can be very stressful, and I know exactly what you mean, where it feels like this is a make or break moment when in reality, you're just bringing food out to customers. Like, this isn't some life-changing experience, it's just food service. But more importantly, I can't believe that one of the dishwashers got away with having you pay him $5 a night, as well as all the other waiters pay him $5 a night just to dry the cutlery that you use throughout the night. How on earth did he not get fired for that? I'm pretty sure that might be some form of extortion, and I honestly don't blame you for quitting. So hopefully your new job works out, and I'm happy for you that you can finally take days off and not feel like you're about to lose your job, especially when that job is not very good in the first place. I am trying to distance myself from a friend who has the same mutual friends that I do, and I'm honestly not sure how to go about doing this. I first want to say that I really do understand that this seems like the kind of problem a high schooler would have, but I really could use some advice. I have a friend, we will call her Sarah, that's not her real name, who I've known for about 10 years. However, the past 2 years, I've been distancing myself for a few reasons. For starters, Sarah puts me down a lot. She is extremely negative about everything and shows no interest in my life. She is also very jealous of me, and this isn't something that I'm inferring. She has told me when she's under the influence that she is jealous of me. And to top this all off, she is really horrible to my dog whenever she's at my house. She calls him it and pushed him off the couch when he was a puppy, so he would land on his back. Stuff like that, really terrible things. I have brought this up with her in the past, but she hasn't changed her attitude. Anyway, we have a mutual friend. We'll call her Rosie, that's also not her name. And I still love and want her in my life. A few of mine and Rosie's friends from across the country are meeting up next month, and Rosie has invited Sarah. This is fine. I obviously cannot dictate who other people are friends with, but I'm wondering how to go about things in a mature way. In the past, Sarah and Rosie have stayed at my house, but I really don't want Sarah at my house for the reasons I previously mentioned. I don't want to feel uncomfortable in my own house, but I'm happy to be civil and friendly in a group setting. Sarah and Rosie will be assuming they're both staying at my place. I'm happy for Rosie to come, but I don't really want Sarah in my space anymore. When the topic comes up, I'm wondering how best to tell Sarah that I don't want her to stay at my place. I want to be honest, really, and not make some stupid excuse, but I don't want to cause any kind of weird atmosphere at the meetup and cause my other friends any kind of discomfort. awkward. Perhaps there's no way around it, but I'm not really sure. The easiest route would be to just let her come to my place and stay the weekend, but I've been such a pushover and people pleaser for this friendship, I don't want to continue anymore. What should I do? From the outside looking in, considering the fact that you have mutual friends, I don't think you can have Rosie stay with you and not ruffle her or Sarah's feathers about the situation. The easiest way out of it that I can see is to probably say that nobody can stay over, because honestly, singling out either person is only going to make things awkward, and it's going to bring in that atmosphere that you're desperately trying to avoid. And the way that that lady's treating your dog, I absolutely would not want someone like that in my house. I'm personally a big believer that the way you treat animals is the way you really are as a person. So seeing someone push a dog off the couch as a puppy, as well as just generally treating it very poorly, is a pretty big red flag in my opinion, and I can understand why you're trying to distance yourself from her. But I do agree with you. I think there will come a time when you need to talk to Sarah and explain to her that you do not want to be friends. I don't think, however, that during this meetup would be an appropriate time to have that conversation. I think waiting until after this meetup would be the best thing for you, because otherwise this is honestly just going to ruin the meetup. But when you do have that conversation, stay strong, because you said it yourself. You've been a people pleaser and a pushover for too long, and she needs to know exactly what's going on. My best friend is cheating on her fiance, and I don't know what to do. I have been friends with my friend Jane for almost 15 years. Jane is not her real name. We both got engaged around the same time, and our weddings are 2 months apart. We are in each other's bridal parties, and I am her maid of honor. Everything up until now has been smooth sailing. That is, until I found out that Jane has been cheating on her fiance with a married man. I met her affair partner once and found their relationship inappropriate, especially since he's the same age as her father, but I had no idea they were sleeping together. It wasn't until recently I found out through a mutual friend that Jane had been hooking up with this guy. It seemed like she wasn't even trying to hide the affair, but didn't tell me specifically because she knew I'd object to it. When confronted, she attempted to gaslight me and lie straight to my face, but after I made it clear that I knew what was going on and that she would have one final chance to be honest with me, she finally then admitted to it. She said it only happened once or twice, but I don't fully believe that either. I, of course, told her that she needed to tell her fiance, as well as this man's wife, but she does not want to do it. According to her, they are just friends now, and since things didn't work out between them, they decided not to tell their partners. I think that's a terrible thing to do, but everyone I've talked to has told me not to say anything because it's not my place. I don't want to throw away 15 years of friendship over a situation that frankly doesn't involve me, but I'm hurt and very angry that she tried to lie and gaslight me. I do not think I can attend her wedding and be happy for her knowing that she's been cheating on her partner. At this point, I'm even having doubts about having her in my wedding as well. So with all things considered, would it be appropriate for me to step down from my maid of honor position? And should I really leave the situation alone, or should I insist she tells her partner? I really don't know where to go from here. What should I do? I don't think it's unreasonable to step down as the maid of honor in this situation. Your friend betrayed your trust. She lied straight to your face, and when she was confronted with it, she tried to gaslight you. That's really toxic behavior in my opinion. Also, 15 years of friendship doesn't mean much when that person is cheating on their fiance that they're about to marry in a few months. That's really ridiculous. There is the other option that you could tell the fiance that this has been going on. I think that man has the right to know that his future wife has been going behind his back. Just imagine if your future husband went behind your back. Wouldn't you want someone to tell you that that's been going on? I know I would. I then would not want to marry someone like that at all. And I don't think that's you getting involved in the situation. I think that's you just being a good person if you did want to go that route. You could even do this anonymously and give him a tip off in some way where you're not identified as the person who said it. That might be your best bet to avoid any kind of drama in the situation. And if you did do that, I would do it after you withdraw from the maid of honor position, while also removing her from your wedding. It's a very sticky situation, and it's one that no one would want to be in. But I would personally want to know if my future wife was cheating on me, even if it was allegedly just 1 or 2 times. My fiance accused me of using him for his parents' money during a fight, and now I'm having trouble getting over that comment, and I don't know what to do. For context, his parents are very wealthy, and my mom raised me and my brother by herself, so we were never well off. We were not destitute, but I have memories of eating the same frozen dinner for weeks at a time, or her losing it when we used too much printer ink. Just lower middle class things. When we got engaged at the beginning of this year, we went to both of our parents to ask for help with a wedding. My mom said she could cover the venue, and his parents said that they they would pay for the entire wedding or help buy us a house. We obviously dropped the wedding plans and moved forward with buying a house. So we bought the home in spring, and after covering the down payments and closing costs, there was still a bit left over from the money his parents gave us. We used it to buy paint and other house things we needed, like curtains, vacuums, stuff like that. We then put a chunk of it into our savings account for future home improvement. After that, we had $4,000 left that we mutually agreed to split between us. His parents were aware that there was money left over and didn't expect it back or anything like that. And also, the money my mom had offered when we were wedding planning, she still gave to us to buy a new bedroom furniture set. I used my half of that money to pay my car off and put it into credit card debt. So now to the present day, my fiance and I are not great at fighting, and it's something we both know we need to work on. He in particular has a habit of saying mean things just to be hurtful. For example, he's told me that the autoimmune disease I have is just my problem and that he doesn't need to care about it. He's told me that I make him miserable, stuff like that. Yesterday, when we were fighting, I told him that we are mean people when we fight, and it makes me think we might be incompatible, and that's when he accused me of using him for his parents' money. I was in shock and asked him why he would think that, and he said, "Because you told me about growing up poor." He also said he's had that thought in the back of his head since we bought the house. This is not only super offensive, but also makes no sense. We bought a small house within our means, and I remember his parents saying we should buy a bigger house and they would help cover the monthly mortgage, which I declined because I thought that sounded inappropriate and I didn't want to rely on them in that way. They also recently said they are still willing to cover our wedding, but only if we get married in their state, which I also don't really want to do for the above reason. And I told my fiance that earlier this week, so I'm really not sure where he got this idea that I'm only with him to try and get after their money. We talked down our fight and got to a place of awkward understanding, but to be honest, I'm still hurt and very angry. I now feel paranoid that maybe his family said something that made him think this way. I also feel very annoyed because I know he's had a pretty spoiled life and he hasn't struggled with finances like I have. Also, I feel sad to think that he's been thinking this way about me for months and I didn't even know. He's apologized and he wants us to work on fixing things, and I think I do too, but then I think of it all over again and I get overwhelmed. How can I get over this? What should I do? This is a really tricky situation because yes, your boyfriend becomes incredibly toxic when he starts arguing with you, but there is no reason for him to go so extreme with it. I mean, he has said some very terrible things that in my opinion are very big red flags. Like, he goes off the handle. It's one thing to get into some kind of petty argument about stuff, but to seriously make the claim that your future wife is only with you because of your parents' money is not only super toxic, but is also really showing of how they really feel about them. It reminds me of how someone can say something really nasty and then try and cover up what they said by saying, "Oh, I was just kidding." Like, no, you probably meant some of that. And it kind of makes me feel the same way in this situation. And while I'm sure there's things that you need to work on as well, I think it's time to sit down with your future husband and let him know straight up that these types of arguments can't happen anymore. He can't say such nasty things about you and expect there not to be some kind of friction, because he has clearly crossed the line one too many times. And unless this is addressed, it's not going to get better. My sister tried to sabotage my job, and now I don't know what to do. For context, my sister and I have never really been close. She has serious behavioral and anger issues. Before this, we had a cordial but distant relationship. I used to work at a private business. I got along really well with my boss and most of my coworkers. We were honestly like a family. My boss supported a very specific political figure that I personally do not subscribe to, and he liked to talk politics with some of my coworkers in private, but this never affected my relationship with him. While my sister and I were visiting my parents, I mentioned to my mom how my boss supports this very specific political figure. My sister, who is very much against this political figure, told me that she wanted to review bomb my boss's Yelp page so that she could get rid of people who follow this political figurehead, especially in her own neighborhood. I told her that that was a terrible, downright stupid thing to do. I liked my boss. He never brought politics into his work, and that she would be hurting me by doing this. I also told her how easy it is to trace a Yelp review, and that I could be implicated if she did that. I begged her not to do it, and she eventually relented, but told me she couldn't associate with me because I was a traitor apparently, which is fine with me, whatever. After that, I just ignored her. Well, imagine how I felt 2 weeks later when my boss called me up saying there was a horrible review on his Yelp page, calling him all kinds of terrible things based on his political preferences. invoices and asking why it was traced to my family's address. I was so humiliated and absolutely disgusted. I had to tell him that it was my sister and that she has some serious issues. He understood but was obviously upset. I confronted my sister and she refused to take the review down. Only after my parents threatened to stop paying her internet bills did she finally take it down, but she refused to apologize. 3 months later, she texted me to apologize for hurting me, but said that she did not regret doing what she did. She also made fun of my boss for taking the review so seriously. I told her that was a terrible apology. She should apologize for what she did because she betrayed my trust and put my job in jeopardy. She sent me another apology that was a bit more thought out after that, but I was suspicious. The writing didn't sound like hers. In fact, the texting style sounded a lot like my dad. So during Thanksgiving, I snuck into my father's phone and would later come to find out that my father wrote that apology for her. I also found a bunch of text messages from my sister calling me all kinds of terrible names, all behind my back. I'm now completely heartbroken. I know my father just wanted us to make up and move on, but knowing that he saw what my sister was saying about me and still continue to help her is just absolutely horrible. I'm also so shook up over the fact that she would betray my trust this way and put my job in jeopardy. I'm still so humiliated and broken over it. I don't know what to do. She hasn't spoken to me since. I want to cut her from my life for good, but I know that it will just hurt my parents. But at the same time, how can I be close to someone who disregards my feelings in such a dangerous way? How do I let my parents know how much their daughter hurt me? What should I do? First off, I want to say that your sister is crazy. The fact that she feels that strongly about someone else's political opinion enough to try and ruin your job is just crazy to me. It's completely inappropriate. So I think sitting down with your parents and explaining to them exactly how you feel about your sister and how she tried to basically get you fired is the reason why you want to cut her off. And there is a chance that they won't be on board with the way you're talking about your sister. I think you really do need to do what's best for you. Your sister has already proven that she is very toxic and she does not care about you. So it might be time to do the best thing for you personally instead of dealing with a toxic family member who actively tried to ruin your job. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.